Oh, mics are live.
Woot.
How am I sounding?
You good?
Sound good to me?
Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
And he does have audio recording software. I don't know if you chatted about that already or not.
Oh, no, I haven't. All right.
I just haven't started it yet.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up when.
Let me pull up my side as well.
Cool. You doing the backup just in case?
Yeah. I'll do both. I'll do both sides. But
Cool.
yeah, okay. I have Audacity up as well.
Cool. Let me delete my Destiny Digest file. There we go.
I'm gonna have so many Word docs open during this.
Oh yeah.
I know
every
that
week.
feeling.
It's good thing I have 2 monitors.
Mm-hmm.
All I need to do is I need to invest in a less squeaky chair.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
As long as I don't move, it's
One piece
fine.
at a time. That's what I've found is the best way to do it.
Well, this chair is already like 6 years old.
Oh, yeah.
It's old. It's an old office chair my parents had when they used to work at a help desk.
Nice. Those are sometimes the best, to be fair.
It is very comfortable, very ergonomic, and it's got, you can recline it, move the armrests up and down. The only thing that's broken is adjusting the height of the chair.
Yeah, I've had those chairs before.
But it's nice right now because the way I have it is the armrests are perfectly level with my keyboard.
Nice, yeah. There you go.
Ergonomic.
But I will get a new one eventually, though. Not those games.
Hashtag.
Well,
Pew pew.
thanks for the sub,
Chew
Wicked.
chew.
How is chat tonight? Chat.
Hey, it's a Wild Kids Jester. I remember him.
Wicked?
Yes. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Wicked?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I get it now.
Mm-hmm. It's like white kid? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He just spells it funny. Just like I spell my name funny. It's fine.
I'm missing an E in my word.
It happens.
Mainly because when I made it on Xbox, it wouldn't fit all characters.
Mm-hmm. You just saw this week's progress with the bad idea. Oh, I haven't really paid attention to Ikora's Vex portal.
Oh, I forgot to check up on that.
It's not next week, but I think the week after that we do Undying Mind, so...
I gotta get the Overlord kills in first.
You still haven't done that?
I've done one of them.
Hmm.
I did the Anchor of Light. Only because it was the first time I've had other people help me with the Vex invasions.
Yeah, you can almost solo it. Oh, you can. So you can absolutely solo it as a bottom tree arc strider with Liar's Handshake, at least for the
Here's the thing.
Overlord.
Here's the thing. I'm a warlock.
Yeah, tough shit. Sorry.
I have a Goku blast I could use.
Mm-hmm.
Or a slow bomb. And that is the highest DPS.
That
sucks. I heard the
sucks.
Vortex Nova got buffed recently.
I had not heard that. No, I've been able to solo them with the Arc Strider, just doing the 1-2 punch combo. But
yeah, that's not bad. I really haven't been too big into the builds.
it's fun. It's effective.
I really should look into it.
Yeah.
I had the Lunafaction build for years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a thing anymore.
That's okay. That is okay. Blue, let me know when you're ready on your end.
I am good whenever you are.
Cool.
I will hit the record button whenever.
Yep, I'm going to count us down 3, 2, 1, go, and then on the go, or I'll do 3, 2, 1, click. on click, you actually click the button, we'll start together. That way it's easy to sync up in post.
Coolio.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, click.
All right.
All right. Let's see.
Oh.
Open all of my Word docs real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
And use my quieter mouse, and I am ready.
Cool.
I mean, oh wait. Okay, let me think of the top three.
The top 3 villain deaths, essentially.
Okay, you guys will have to go first. I'm gonna brainstorm on that real quick.
Yeah, I'll give you a moment. What I generally do anymore, like if I don't do it ahead of time, I will pull up a list of villains or pull up a list of the topic, whatever it is. If it's candy, I pull up a list of candy, and I tend to like skim through that. And as I'm going through, if somebody jogs my memory for something else, I'll switch it, kind of thing.
Okay.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Okay. Chat, if you guys are ready, I'm ready too. It's going to be audience participation tonight. In so much that I want to hear all the hate about all the different villains.
And I have the backup running as well.
Awesome. 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 All right. Here we go. Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for Top 3, like a few of you have this week, be sure to drop us a note on Twitter at FocusFireChat, in our Discord, or even email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com. This week is a suggestion from one of the Guardians of Lore podcast alumnus. He suggested we talk about our top 3 villain deaths. So characters that have died who are villains, our top 3 favorite ones of those guys. With us, as always, it's Green Eyes Music Lover, if I can say my own name for once this evening, as well as Blue Crew 86, and in the hot seat tonight is Do You Know Destiny?
And my individual name is Volshock Berserker.
Yeah, but I know you as Do You Know Destiny?
Yes.
Absolutely. Volshock Berserker. So, we're going to count things down from 3 to number 1 on this. I'm going to have Blue go first this evening, then Volshock, then myself, and we will get this thing going. Threes are starting us. Blue, you are up.
So my number 3 was actually really annoying because I have so most of them are or actually all mine are from books, but I can't remember the names of the villains, and I don't actually ever I don't remember, and it's been a long time since I've read the series. I don't remember if they actually die. But they
really?
were yeah, I just remember like the visceral feeling of the group of villains that it's from the Blending series by Sharon Green. It's a team, so it's basically a team of different magic users against a mirrored team of different magic users. It's a huge competition type thing, and I remember the series itself is really it's a very adult series, but it's also got a really, really cool, unique blend of the magic system that they use. And so it's one of my favorite series because of the magic system that they have. But I cannot for the life of me remember the arch nemesis team that is going on. They're just but I remember them just being she did a really good job in making them 100% believable and also sympathetic. But you still wanted to just punch them in the throat. It was one of those group of characters that you were they meshed really well together, which was kind of the whole point of the whole blending concept. But as a whole, you just wanted to punch them in the throat. But yeah, it was that group, and then it was actually a tie between that group and then the group of species from Battlefield Earth known as the Cyclos, who did get killed as a whole. Their entire race pretty much got exterminated in the book, and it was again a situation where L. Ron Hubbard I seriously love that book. I've actually read that book enough times that I've gone through 3 copies of it.
Wow.
So then, and if you've ever seen that book, you'll understand what like that's significance of that. That is, it's a very large book, and yeah, I've actually read. I've read to rags 3 copies of that book, but the Cyclos as a whole, they're the main antagonist of that novel, and it's just their comeuppance that they get at the end is a combination of like they basically are architects of their own destruction, in a number of different ways, but it's just beautifully done in my opinion.
Nice. Yes. Okay. This is good. This is like a little cathartic for me because just bad guy deaths, hearing about bad guy deaths and like the stories behind it is always a little nice.
Mm-hmm,
All
mm-hmm.
right. All right. Berserker.
I guess
I'm going to go with you.
I guess I'm up now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Number 3, I would say would probably be one of my favorite book series, the trilogy. I guess no, there's 4 books now of Aragon, The Death of Gabotorax.
Okay.
Really?
It's been quite some time since I read the books, but
Yeah, I was about to say I think I read
yeah.
the first 2 books.
I have all 4, but I waited so long for the 4th one, Inheritance, to come out, that finally being able to read the death of the Mad Emperor felt so satisfying. And years ago, at this point, the author Christopher Plowen, I want to say,
yeah, I believe
said he's going to make a 5th one. So I wonder if they're gonna.
I have to go back and reread those.
Yeah, I hope that we get some more info on Gabotor, because all we remember was he was a dragon rider who turned on everybody. But I want to know like more about him, like how his mind went through when he became the villain.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember I was reading those books around the same time that I was reading I think it's Sabriel series.
Oh, those are
with
good.
Garth
Those
Nix, which has geez, you want to talk about, man, fascinating magic system. That was another one that was really interesting because the bells.
I gotta get a list of books from you guys because all of these magic systems sound amazing.
Yeah, I'm really bad actually. Like I'll put up with really bad books if they have really good systems. Like it's real. I'm kind of, it's like I'm not embarrassed to say that, but I have read some just like if looking back I'm like, oh, that book is absolute trash, but the underlying system that was like there, that was being kind of touched on, was like, I'm like, I really like that. I'll fixate on those types of things.
That's my feeling on the entire book series. Was it Clockwork Angel?
I haven't gotten into that one. But I've heard stuff.
The systems are nice, but the weird storyline, no.
That's Vampire Earth. If you've ever E.E. Knight, it's a really interesting twist on the vampire mythos. Not like, I wouldn't say it's horrible storytelling, but like the twist on the mythos is definitely the reason I read them. It's not because of the story, like. But I can talk forever on that. So Green.
Nice. Yeah, no worries. My number 3 is The Death of the Six-Fingered Man, Count Rugen from Princess Bride. Because
never watched it.
Oh my god, it's also a good book too. It's also a really good book.
The book.
But it's just so satisfying because Inigo Montoya, one of the main characters in the book or in the movie as well, has a scar left on him from Count Rugen. And Count Rugen had killed his father when he was younger and left him the scar as a reminder, just to be like,
as he so happily reminds everybody.
Yes, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Great little scene, but he finally gets to enact his own little bit of revenge at the end after like Rugen has basically like taken off because he's really a coward. He's not, and Inigo ends up being the better swordsman in the end. So it's very satisfying for Montoya to basically take him out at the end, get his revenge, and his last kind of thing he says to him is all he wants is to have his father back. He doesn't want gold, he doesn't want riches or anything like that. He just wants his father back. And obviously he can't give it to him. So it's very satisfying to get that little bit of revenge, that familial revenge on that. But that brings us to number 2's Blue.
Mine is Mordred from the Dark Tower series. I can't remember what exactly it was. Either one before last, or the one before that, kind of touched on that. But Mordred is he was basically created to be the antithesis of Roland, and through a series of unfortunate little, not events but tweaks, basically. He ends up again being the architect of his own destruction in a weird way, but he's like in the same regards that he is super, super uncomfortable to read about. He's also really pitiful. Like King did a really good job with Mordred in the book series. Well, he hasn't been introduced. I don't know if he's going to be introduced in the TV show. But like Mordred's character is very reminiscent of the actual Mordred from the Arthurian legends. And when he is put down in the books, it's actually almost a mercy kill that is being performed, which is it's appropriate to his character because he's basically he was created really with a intent to be a weapon, not actually, like there was no regard for his like personhood, which is a really interesting thing to read about, and that actually ties into my number 1. But yeah, so Mordred from the Dark Tower, he's in the latter fourth.
He's
I think.
After Rhea.
Yes. He makes Rhea look like a walk in the park. I will put it that way.
You're not making it easy for me to pick it back up. Just
because
saying.
See, like the thing is like Rhea was like, she sold herself to like what's referred to like as the outer darkness. Like she was like she had her own issues and she completely embraced them. Mordred was never like given a choice. He was created by the Crimson King to basically for the purpose of killing Roland. Like he was created, and from the very beginning of his existence, he was basically unleashed on the world. Then there's like a huge connection throughout the entire series of how Mordred came into existence, and it was like it's really messed up. But like the entire time, he actually views Roland, like you see the story from his perspective in a few chapters, and you like, as much as he has like this built-in hatred of Roland as a figure of whatever it's been programmed into him, he also is in a weird way hit Roland's son. And
awkward.
Yes, no, but that's actually what in turn creates this sense of like he just wants to be loved. He's just like a child. He just like no one has ever shown him love, and that's actually what is his undoing. Is he's like yearning so much for this connection that he basically opens himself up, and that's what allows him to be overcome ultimately. But yeah, he's both a really fascinating character that you can't help but really feel uncomfortable with his character, but you also kind of feel really sorry for his character at the same time. King does a really good job with making those villains, like the villains that are like they're weirdly pitiable, like it's
pitiable, like I'm sorry, that word
pitiable.
Oh, have pity upon.
Yes. That one.
Okay,
that
gotcha.
word.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have a pitiable Villain next. Berserk.
I would have to say General Zhao from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, I get you on that one.
Because he was basically the stereotypical villain. And then when he was it the Southern Water Tribe?
Mm-hmm.
When he invaded them and he had the moon and ocean spirits take him, it was to me a satisfying death because he deserved it a lot. And then later on, when the Legend of Korra came around, not only was he, I would say, killed in the physical world, but his astral or his soul was trapped in the foggy mazes for all eternity, which I think is a very, I could say, bad, great punishment for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wasn't he okay? So I'm trying to remember his connection to some of the other characters. Like there was a more personalized connection between him and some of the characters, wasn't there?
I believe he was at the match between Zuko and his father where he got burned in the eye.
When Zuko got burned.
And he had a little bit of a disdain for Iroh because of his failures at Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, and Zuko was always trying to live up to his father, or essentially, kind of thing.
Yes, the whole
Yeah.
honor thing, which
Mm-hmm.
he grew up from, which is great.
Right.
But I feel like General Zhao was maybe an early inkling of what Zuko could have become if he went down the wrong path.
Yeah.
You
That
guys read
is-
such great books, and I got like
No.
an old show.
I mean, I've got
It's a great show.
My next one's going to be a movie villain, so mainly because I love the actor. Because
Is it
mine.
Matt Damon?
No.
Matt
although-
Damon. Matt Damon.
Has Matt Damon ever played a bad guy? Like, I don't think
Interstellar.
really? I would
Yeah,
laugh at him being a bad
Interstellar,
guy.
he was kind of
just
a
saying.
creeper, wasn't he?
I think he was alone for too long.
I was about to say, isn't that the one that was slightly uncomfortable if you actually thought about what was going on?
Mm-hmm. I think with
I haven't
him.
watched it. I haven't watched it because I was like, I saw it and I was
it's
like,
so good.
Isn't
I
that the one
love
with him?
space
Him
stuff.
and
It's so
is it Jennifer Lawrence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's the one I'm
But-
thinking about because that was the creepy one. Oh yeah. Amazing Mr. Ripley. He was
Oh
that
yeah,
guy.
okay.
Problem I have with Matt Damon is I have like my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, like the little trilogy is the Oceans series, the Oceans 11, 12, 13. And he plays Linus, the just he plays bumbling really well. And I cannot see Matt Damon in any other role other than just like a kid who doesn't quite know and gets kind of thrown into the most awkward situations. Sorry, Matt, if you ever listen to this show, which I highly doubt, but sorry. My favorite one of my favorite actors of all time in multiple movies also played the villain in another trilogy that I know gets a lot of bad rap, and it is Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving
Ooh.
from The Matrix, when Neo basically, through the power of what we don't even know for sure, basically rewrites his programming and just
The
completely
power of Christ
obliterates
compelled
him.
him.
Yeah, I know. I have such mixed feelings about that last, like the
Well, that's
number
what
3,
happened.
but
Here,
I know.
unfiltered
know.
opinion. That's what happens
I'm
is
a-
when the story that
I
you
know.
stole doesn't have a conclusion, and you have to come up with
Yeah.
one.
Well, did you ever
Yeah.
hear the fan theory on that ending?
Which one?
What was the prophecy that the one born in the Matrix would save it?
Mm-hmm.
Someone
that it was actually Smith the entire time.
yes, that it was actually Smith the entire time because since Neo destroyed him in 3 and was reborn at that moment, he was the one who saved the Matrix.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what Black Flag
Well,
said
that's-
in chat
yeah.
right now.
I don't know, but he just plays such a good bad guy in that.
Oh
like,
yeah,
He's been in a couple other ones that he's been a slightly like not good, but not necessarily bad. He does a really good job
as Elrond in Lord of the Rings was like my first introduction to him, and yeah, he's just amazing.
He's up there with Gary Oldman as far as like actors who play good bad guys in my mind.
Yeah. And it's funny because he plays very serious actors or very serious roles very well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Hugo Weaving as Mr. Agent Smith is definitely my number 2 on that one, which brings us towards the end of our show. We have number 1s. Time to wrap it up. Blue, what do we got?
Number 1 is definitely Walter O'Dim, again from the Black Tower or Dark Tower series, mostly because he is so much more within the mythos of Stephen King than just the Dark Tower. Like, Walter is a prevalent figure throughout a large majority of King's works. He makes appearances in a number of different like air quotes series, because they actually all are connected inside the Dark Tower multiverse, within the overarching multiverse. And Walter is one of the very dark threads that connects all of them. So when he finally gets his just rewards at the hand of his own creation, which is it's both an extremely graphic and very, very, very disturbing scene when he does get killed, but also one that you're reading and you're like, that's right. Go back to the beginning of the chapter, read it again. Go back to I might have read that chapter like 3 times in a row, because it was one of those characters in which you're like, I don't normally like take pleasure in seeing a character brought to an end, but like Walter's character was just, he was just so well written as a villain, and he was so unredeemable. Like, even in his last pitiful moments, when he's like completely reduced, and he realizes that he is not going to achieve his grand scheme of becoming his goal of becoming the one who scales the tower. Like that, like watching that hope in him getting crushed was like, I'm like, yes, do it again. Like, it's just great ending to his character by King. And I think that was in the Dark Tower, actually. I want to say he was there right up until nearly the very end. I can't remember if it was the Dark Tower or the one right before that, but he nearly made it. He nearly made it, and then appropriately he was denied.
Yay. I like it when bad guys are denied their final wish or whatever. They don't actually get their...
It's such a satisfying feeling.
It is. What is your number 1, sir?
Well, given the 20 minutes I thought about it, I'd have to say, not just like, this isn't just like one character in this case. It's like a trio. It would be the 3 prophets from Halo, because I read the books, and if I'm remembering correctly, the 3 prophets knew that the Great Journey was a lie, because they had an oracle from 100 years prior telling them the true purpose of Halo. Yet they still used the Great Journey as a way to get Forerunner tech and then almost wipe the galaxy free of all life. And to me, it's the turning entire races fanatical for a goal they don't truly understand evil, and them getting their comeuppance one by one with, what was it, Mercy being punched to death by Master Chief,
as he rightfully deserved.
Truth. Oh, how did Truth die? Arbiter.
Truth Arbiter was skewered.
And the third one taken by the flood. And just based on some of the accounts of like Captain Keyes when he's being taken control of the flood, sounds brutal, and I love it a lot.
Nice.
Well, and it's especially since you read the books, you know that what they did to become prophets.
Yeah,
It's
they
like how
were
they
very dirty.
they did not they skewered the system quite hard or quite heavily.
They do love glassing planets.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I forgot about that part of that. Ay. All right. So my number one is very visceral. It is one of my favorite scenes and probably one of the most iconic / scene that it was burned into my mind as a young child.
Hashtag.
And it is
Pew,
when
pew.
a
Choo,
chain
choo.
gets thrown around the neck, and just with all of her weight, Princess Leia suffocates Jabba the Hutt. Because,
Oh
dear
yeah,
Lord,
yeah.
that one needed to happen so badly.
Have you read the book of okay, so go and see if you I'll see if I could find one. I'll send you a copy of mine if I can find my old books, because the death scene for Jabba in the like original script is just so, oh my god, it's so great, because it's basically called out that she has to strangle him because you can't shoot him.
Yeah.
Because he's a Hutt. Because Hutts are so fat. You can't actually, like, they've actually tried to assassinate a Hutt, and like literally people have wasted entire blaster charges, and there's just nothing that happens. It's so bad.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's actually why she strangles him, is because she wants to make sure that he actually gets killed.
Right. Because he's got basically ballistics amount of fat to be able to stop any bolt from going through the layers. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lightsaber can cut through it, but it would still take a lot of chopping to actually get through them.
Yeah, Black Flag. Yeah, like technically, I think the lightsabers could kill him, but but it's a really kind of interesting, like, because that's actually sort of called out in what's that, Return of the Jedi. It was called out there, and then it's actually called out also within Tales from Jabba's Hutt's Palace, when you actually get to read a small story about a Hutt giving birth. It's really interesting. Like, it's interesting, like how the expanded universe built some of the alien species up. Hutts
I don't want to know the process beforehand.
Well, Hutts they're asexual. They don't
really?
actually. Yeah, they actually kind of like. They're like slugs. They basically like split. Yeah, it's like really weird. But it's like it's called out like they're the most vulnerable when they're little, because they don't have the copious amounts of flesh or fat around them.
A lightsaber could definitely kill a Hutt.
Oh yeah, it would take a bit of. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd be like when Qui-Gon was cutting through that steel door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Luke didn't have his lightsaber at that point, did he?
No, he did not, because that's what we're talking about, chat. He force grabbed a pistol to shoot Jabba before he got thrown into. Which, oh my gosh, that's such a sad story too. Like the actual story of the Rancor that's in the pit.
Yeah,
like,
I know that one.
He's actually like the pet of the I want to call him groundskeeper. He's not a gameskeeper. The dude that gets basically thrown in there at the end, like he actually really cared for that Rancor. It's like, it's actually kind of sad. Yeah, he's actually kind of sad. I'm like, oh, that's
well, he like cries at the end of it, doesn't he? Like in the scene, you see him like upset. Yeah, poor guy. I don't know. Did you guys have any like also rans that almost made your list? I know I had at least one.
I had the Alien Queen from Aliens, just simply because Sigourney Weaver's line right before she rams it with the forklift is like seriously one of the best ones, and it's about a cat.
It's about a cat? I've never watched Aliens, so I don't know.
Oh no!
I don't do horror movies.
So, it's not. I mean, I'm
suspense.
just like, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. It's more of a suspense, I think. But no, like, so the entire thing is like, she's on the entire Alien series is really, in my opinion, really good. The book series is even better, but but there's like the whole thing of like she's killing all the xenomorphs or whatever, and the queen goes berserk, and they're in the very final scene of everything, and she's in like this like weird. So they're on the spaceship, and she's on, and it's a like a engineering bay. So they have like all the heavy equipment, and it's basically a forklift is really what it is that she ends up just skewering this alien with. And but the bait that she uses is the cat that has been like in the entire movie. The cat like just, it never gets hurt, like it always just manages to get out of the way, but she's using it as bait, and the entire time this alien is like dedicated to trying to get to the cat, because it keeps like,
you don't mess with a flurgan.
Oh god, it's just a scratch. Oh god. That was the best part of that movie, was the like but no, so like there's the scene where it's basically Ridley, and her response is, "Get away from her, you beep beep," and she hits the alien queen with the fork and pushes it out into space. It's just like it's one of those scenes where it's Ridley Scott, like he does such a good job with the whole like emotive presentation, and it's just I seriously, it's just, she's just one of those villain kills that's just perfect.
You know what? Another one of the like childhood scarring ones that almost made my list was the Nazis from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
Oh, the skull melting, and oh god.
Oh yeah.
Lost Ark was, and then also the
one where the heart. Like
Temple of
Indiana
Doom.
Jones had some real graphic deaths.
Isn't the Ark the one where if Indiana wasn't in it, it would have turned out exactly the same?
Yes.
Yeah, because he's not an actual hero in that one. He just is smart enough not to open his eyes and look at the Ark. Yeah,
he just managed to read the clues and was like, a clue, don't touch the thing. What was the Last Crusade was the other one that like, it's you have chosen poorly.
Oh yeah, the Grail. Team age real quickly.
Yeah.
Man.
Do you guys have any other ones?
I was gonna say one, and then Grubber from Die Hard. Just simply because the behind the scenes story of how they didn't tell Rickman about it. Hans with the fall.
Oh.
So like he's hanging there, and like they didn't tell him that he was like, they were gonna drop him basically. So the look of panic on his face in the movie, that's the actual response of him being dropped. He's like, it just makes it a little bit better in my mind. And yes, it is also the best Christmas movie ever.
Still don't believe that.
I'm agreeing with Blue on this one.
I'm like, wasn't it Bife that got in an argument about that?
Yes, because he was here when we did the holiday movie top 3. God,
I mean, it's not a typical holiday movie, but it is a holiday movie.
It is a holiday movie, literally, and it's also...
It's fine, whatever. Oh, Gremlins. Gremlins is not a holiday movie.
Gremlins is
Boo.
not, I don't think.
One or two.
None. I don't like Gremlins. We've had this discussion. But Gremlins actually was the one, like, it's not, I know it's not an actual horror movie, but it is actually the movie that gave me the most nightmares growing up. Don't know why.
I can see that.
They were just terrifying.
In the age of Furbies.
God. Oh my gosh. So story about a Furby. Those things are evil. Those things are freaking evil. Okay, so I lived semi-catty corner to a friend of mine. She had a Furby. I stayed the night at her place.
Oh, no,
those things
creepy.
Activate. They activate with motion. They're supposed to activate with motion. We were asleep on the floor.
They'll
the
wake
Furby
up
was
randomly
on the dresser. it woke up and started talking to us. And I'm like, yeah,
That's
no, I'm going
terrifying.
home.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not staying
no.
the rest of the night. Like,
We
we're
had-
not doing this anymore.
We had one
Nope.
and it ended quickly with a baseball bat because
Yeah.
it did that, and I was like, nope, sorry, I'm not playing this game.
They were creepy, and they'd be like, they're kind of like lighthearted, but at the same time, it's like, Furby says hello, and it's like,
Well,
oh god,
a child's
nope.
laugh brings you a lot of joy, unless you live alone in an apartment
And you don't
Yeah.
have a child.
and you don't have a child.
Those are
Yeah.
those. So I like how you two both are like, we don't like horror movies, but some of the best things that I've ever seen are the horror stories in 2 sentences. Have you guys ever seen those?
Oh, I've seen some of those.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're so great. Like they're not movies, but they're like hang on, let me look up a few.
I browse Reddit sometimes when I see them.
Yeah, they're really big on Reddit. 150
Nice.
short 2-sentence horror stories to freak you out.
Yep, nope. I don't want to. Let's not.
No, hang on.
Green-
It's really
Green
cool.
wants to sleep. Green wants to sleep tonight.
Because one of the best ones. Oh yeah, so here, this is the one. So I begin tucking him into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I look underneath for his amusement and see another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and
Oh,
whispering,
I've seen that one.
"Daddy, there's somebody on my bed."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
They're
Well,
so
then.
good. They're so good. I love them because it's like it's
Ugh.
always like the wait. Hang on, what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you know the "I'm sorry, John" thing
yeah. Mm-hmm.
with Garfield? It's like that to me.
Oh yeah.
Just
So-
the uncomfortable feeling
So
of
have
something
you-
behind.
So I got introduced to Garfield with a pipe. Yeah, I don't know if you know what that is. I
Mhm.
highly encourage you to look up Garfield with a pipe. It is some of the worst humor I have ever found in a comic, but it's also hilarious.
Interesting.
Chat's
You
not
know-
happy with me.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, I'm actually going to wrap up this episode before we get into too many more things that might give children some nightmares, including myself, because I'm
Mhm.
considering myself childlike at this point, even though that ship has sailed a long time ago. So, thank you guys for joining us for top 3. Remember to shout out your suggestions for us. They're always fun. If you want to torture me a little bit more, talk more about horror stories, because definitely not a huge fan of that, but I don't mind a little conversation now and then. But if you have those suggestions, hit us up on Twitter, in Discord, or at focus5chat@gmail.com. And then remember, until next time, everybody loves a list.
If you want to be cheered up a bit from these scary stories, I have a joke.
Go for it.
What cabal is an astronomer but also a legionnaire?
What cabal is an astronomer, but also a legionnaire?
Galileo.
Oh, Lord. Oh, no. It's like a dad joke, but worse. It's a Destiny dad joke.
I got it from the subreddit Destiny Dad Jokes.
That's awesome. Oh, Lord.
The greatest group out there.
Yeah, no worries. That's funny. Blue's still chuckling in the background.
I'm also chuckling because chat's so pissed at me right now.
But not horror stories. That's correct.
We should do the top 3 2-sentence horror stories.
No, that means I have to read them.
As long as it's daytime, I'm fine.
Yeah, no.
Some of them are really creepy too. Like I'll
That's
have
the
to admit,
problem.
like I mean, it's amazing how creepy some of them are, and they literally are only 2 sentences long. Like it's really actually amazing, but also really disturbing.
To the credit of the writer, they do a good job in 2 sentences.
Oh yeah. That's what I mean. It's like I'm like, man, you like, and they're not like long sentences either. That's the thing.
Sorry, I have this train going through town and it's been blowing its horn for like the last 30 seconds, and I'm just at this point kind of timing it.
Just open your window and honk your horn back.
Yeah, how? How am I gonna honk my horn out the window when my car's in the garage?
Go beep beep.
Just, I'm sure your lock button can go through walls. Just click
There
it
you
a few
go.
times.
Yeah. It's better than the episode we did when I was doing Horizon Zero Dawn. Do you remember that episode? I had to sit out on the porch because I was on my phone.
You and
the
Justin,
train.
both
oh
of you.
My God.
Justin's was sitting outside because that was the only place he had electricity. And it was like, Justin, are you? Yeah, I'm. And it's like, oh my God! It was just like it's just. Oh.
Yeah. Unfortunate train events. Like the doggy events, but a little different. No, I'm not very good at tooting my own horn.
I just saw that.
All right. Blue whenever you're ready on the next part.
Yep. I'll do this one.
I love the light so much. I'm a fan of systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like hard systems.
Hard systems?
Yeah, like the magic system in Harry Potter.
That's because
To me,
it's,
Oh, you mean
it's
complicated
wishy-washy at
Yeah.
best.
Gotcha.
But I mean, for the light, I've been trying to quantify it forever. It's hard.
Well, especially when you don't necessarily have the quantification done in game itself.
We have a little bit at least with the power level.
Yeah, but that even seems like it's been slightly changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've done some math on it, and if you compare the light level when our Guardian first showed up to what it is now, it is exponentially more powerful.
It is true.
Okay. All right. There we go. Cool. Get that started. There. Okay, cool. All right. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on November 8th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the capabilities of light. So this particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we get any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the Guardian that doesn't like watching any horror movies, so please don't bring it up. Green-eyed music lover.
And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Volshak Berserker from the Do You Know Destiny account. Volshak, how are you doing?
Hello. I am kind of tired.
I know how that one goes. So usual introductory question next for you. Where can we find you out on the internet?
You can find Did You Know Destiny on Facebook at the same name, Twitter and Instagram at DYK Destiny, a shortened version. And we just started a podcast ourselves.
I was about to say, you guys,
Now You Know Destiny.
Yeah, I like how you played off the name on that one.
Yeah,
I saw that the other day.
At least it was an easy title to think of.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about what your guys' concept is with this one? Because Do You Know Destiny is like those little tidbits, you see I call them postcards that you put up where you have information about the history in the game and a little bit of the lore a lot of times going into it. But how are you translating that to the podcast now?
Well, with a podcast, at least, it's more long form, so we can get a little more in depth than the cards because I'm limited to a single paragraph on those. And here we're doing a whole hour. Right now, we're just covering the main timeline, so we're not going too in depth. But I hope with the general topics like light, for example, we can get pretty in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Depth with it.
Nice. Absolutely. So, what is your favorite lore story in Destiny?
Well, as we're about to find out today, Ulan Tan and the Symmetry.
Nice.
Warlock apologist. It's fine.
Hey. What did Ulan Tan do wrong?
Die.
Whoa.
Just saying.
Shots fired. Just unapologetic right there.
You're a hunter main, right?
Uh-huh, it's fine.
You have more dead hunters than there are warlocks.
I just love the lack of hesitation on Green's part. Die. Wow.
I mean, I couldn't think of anything else that happened that he did. Because there's not a whole lot
well,
about
that
his
escalated quickly.
Well, okay, there's not a whole lot of history on him. All we have is slight notes about from his followers or afterwards. You don't have a lot of in-depth of what he did in his life, so it's hard to say, oh, what did he do wrong?
Just his theories and
my whole
the
thing
burial
is,
ring.
Yeah, my whole thing is I want to know if the Symmetry was just about the light or if it also was about politics.
And that would be interesting.
Because that
least
was the
all
thing
I've seen is the light.
Right, but I mean if you the concept of symmetrical alignments and everything like that is that everything is equal. And so I have this really kind of odd thought that maybe that's where some of the apprehension about the Symmetry comes from, is that it lowers the importance of Guardians. And it's no, civilians are just as important as Guardians. They're on the same level. We shouldn't be able to have a consensus with the Guardians having predominant control of the politics of the city, because if you look at the consensus, it's the Vanguard and the Speaker who are all kind of speaking for the Guardians, then only 3 factions. So it's actually heavier on the Garden side. And so there's potential for a whole political component there as well.
I mean, their ideas were quite, I would say, extreme from the Speaker's point of view.
Right.
Because the Speaker thought the darkness was something that should be eradicated, but the Symmetry is darkness must exist.
Yeah, and I have my own thoughts there too, because it's you don't tell an army that, that thing that you're fighting, it's not really able to be defeated. It's not going to go over well with the generals.
Well, we're definitely going to have more to talk about that, I'm sure, especially as we get into the advanced episode, because I have a feeling we're going to at least touch upon some of the newer cards that have been released recently.
Oh yeah, they're interesting.
Oh yes. So, I'm just gonna keep calling you Berserker because it's easier than saying Volschlock.
Or just Vol.
Vol.
I
sound like I'm saying bull every time.
All right.
Vol. It's a
fair
no worries.
point. Fair
No
point.
worries.
That's a fair point.
What got you into lore exploration? Were you reading Ishtar Collective? Did you find a video creator already, or did you just kind of dig into the story itself?
Well, to explain that would be to explain I usually have an obsession with something. And before it was Destiny, it was Halo. Because huge expansive world. And then when Destiny came out, my dad owned it, so I started playing it one day. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Let me look into this a little bit, and then rabbit hole immediately.
Interesting. And I think I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this one, but for our listeners and our guest in chat, what class is your primary class, sir?
The best one. Warlocks. Warlock by heart, Titan as a secondary.
Okay. Why Warlock? What attracts you to them? Is it like a mechanic thing, or is it an actual more like personality
I would say
roleplay
personality
aspect?
thing, the scholar side of it. Because I would, if it was an RPG, I would always choose the mage,
Mm-hmm.
but I would always have a swordsman heart.
Okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. Uh, so funny. Reading chat. Chat is being very vocal about aspects of warlocks this evening. And I'm not.
Warlock, curiosity killed the warlock.
Yeah,
Well, there
because
was
the list of the light bearers that I have, actually, if you count the classes, warlocks have the most.
the most that have been killed.
Dead.
Really?
At the moment. Yeah,
It's
by a
up
long
there.
ways.
Yeah, it's like really bad.
It's,
I
I
told
think
him,
it is.
I told him, shh, don't tell him that. That's okay. Just shit.
And knowledge taught him how to res until he forgot. Because
That's what happens when people rearrange the furniture.
I think it's a little bit like the whole like D&D wizard thing. Because if you're a wizard in D&D, you have to memorize certain spells a day.
You
and
think
if you
they just
don't,
didn't memorize the spells appropriately?
yeah, I think they just and then they utterly forgot it. Like I just don't think they remember how to do it. You
Poor
don't use it,
wizards.
you lose it.
That's so accurate.
We're gonna get hate mail. It's gonna be, oh my god, I'm gonna get hate mail for that one. It's fine.
I mean, warlocks would be, at least in D1, would be very good at remembering their quote spells with them dying a lot and self-resting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which
They
I
had a lot of
miss
practice.
sorely. Yes, I had a lot of practice.
Oh
Mhm.
man, I loved having
I had so
a
much
sun
practice
singer on our team. That was so useful.
double solar grenades with sunbreakers.
Oh god, those terrible matches.
Yeah. All right, Blue. I don't have any sort of crazy question I want to necessarily pose to him because I actually want to give him that time to talk about his own theory on light once we
Okay,
get down
cool.
there.
Yeah, definitely. And then did we have a community question this week?
We did not. I
Okay.
did not bother the community with it this week.
Fair enough. So enough with our chatter. Let's run through some quick housekeeping notes, and then we will give the mic back over to Volshak and let him regale us with the theories of light.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to take it away, Volshak.
Okay. Well, I want to start off with my personal theory on the light. Since I really dived into the teachings of Ulan Tan, because so far his teachings seem to be the most applicable.
How
Given
so?
in one of his, I would say, rules on the light on the symmetry theory would be that all light is connected, and that is apparent during the moon mission in D1, where the Hive are extracting light from a shard of the Traveler,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pulling light from the Traveler itself as well. So when they free it and the shard is freed, the Traveler can heal. And a second instance where this is true is when the Red Legion traps the Traveler in a cage, stopping the, I would say, invisible branches of light from connecting the Guardian to the Traveler. And no other theory that I've read, in-game theory, kind of has that many instances of it being true.
So here's a question I have for you then. If the Hive were essentially infecting the Traveler or preventing it from healing with the initial shard mission back in D1, what do you think about the shard and the EDZ and what's going on there? And the fact that there's so many um, enemies, maybe not necessarily minions of darkness, but enemies certainly there and collected in the twisted and the dark forest and everything going on there. How would that affect the Traveler?
It's interesting because while I do like Ulan's teaching a lot, I do see them as incomplete.
Okay.
like how Newton developed many rules of the universe, and then they were later refined. To my personal interpretation of the symmetry is that while the light is connected wholly,
Mm-hmm.
there can be instances where a source can survive if a other source is blocked off. They say that the shard in the EDZ is corrupted different than the light of the traveler, which could very loosely lend an idea that the light in the EDZ is its own source.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything happens to the traveler, the EDZ shards won't be wholly affected by what would happen to it.
Well, that was kind of proven at the beginning of the Red War in some respects.
Yes.
Even though the traveler itself was cut off and our light was cut off from the primary source, connecting to the corrupted traveler.
And this led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole to try to figure out what would be a kind of level of a light accumulation
Mm-hmm.
that would be considered a source. So this is where I started crunching numbers.
Okay.
At the beginning of Destiny 1, our Guardian is at 5 light level, based on the light level given during the Taken King leveling system change. And I'm going skipping my numbers a bit. At the beginning of D2, we are at 100 light. And here's my little assuming where the theory can fall apart. There's a 6-month difference between the end of the Taken War and Rise of Iron to Destiny 2. 6 months difference. If we assume our Guardian didn't get any more powerful, the 400 light level max of Rise of Iron would be the same as a 100 level we started out as on D2.
But then we lose the light level.
And drops us down to 10, which would be in D1 levels a 40 level light, which is 8 times more than our D1 beginning.
Okay.
When we regain our light, we are only at 20, which is 80 in D1 levels. So it's a hard number to figure out because it's hard to figure out because I would like to think that our Guardian was close to becoming its own source because since we're touted as the strongest of them all, I would like to think that we were close to becoming our own source, but we didn't get to it. That's why we were weakened when the Traveler broke off. And sadly, I haven't been able to determine a range of a possible source in my theory. A branch off source.
Interesting. I'm looking at your numbers because you were kind enough to give us the link to your theory
Yes.
and everything. And you essentially have just every number that we have reached so far, you have multiplied it times 4 because we are already 4 times more powerful at the beginning of D2 in some respects than we are at D1, even though we lost light. But one could even argue that technically after we lose light, we go all the way back to all the way down to the base of 10. We're not actually at that 40 mark because to say that we're at that 40 mark is to essentially, even though veterans are experienced, the non-veteran wouldn't necessarily have that experience behind them. They would be kindergartens.
That's true.
So wouldn't they actually be at a light level of 10 instead of the exponential of the times 4?
That could be possible. It's a little difficult because since the dialogue is different between veteran and new at the beginning of Destiny 2, it branching, but I always assumed that in lore in the in universe that it's always the Guardian with a capital G, and that this is their story, this singular Guardian. So even if they didn't play Destiny 1, it would be still their background of that guardian.
Right.
But that changes with new light, which
Interesting.
makes it a lot more complicated.
Yeah, definitely. And the concept of quantifying something based off of obviously numbers in game are more for our own level, for our own ability to quantify where we're at in game to reach a new level. And you wouldn't necessarily have Ikora with a number next to her head saying she's light level
Yeah.
XXX or whatever. It's harder for us to assign that quantity to characters in game. So with that, how would you describe light as a power? Would you describe it as their ability to utilize it efficiently or an actual they are able to channel more of it?
I wouldn't say being able to channel more would make them more powerful. It's how you use it, how you manipulate it. Because to me, light is very malleable.
Okay.
Sure, like for example, if you have a ward of dawn,
Mhm.
if you know how to use a ward of dawn, it could be much more effective. Because if you were to cover the wall of the city in ward of dawns, you could protect yourself against a large array of surface to ground or ground to ground missiles.
Mhm.
But if you lay them, you couldn't stop a Striker Titan. Being able to use the light in ways that bring out the most benefit, the most advantage to me would be a better ability, like source. Like it would show their prowess more than just raw power.
Okay. It's just it's not the quantity, it's the quality of which you're
It's
using
like the
it.
strategy behind it.
Yeah. The quantity does help because it allows you to use a larger array,
Mhm.
but it's not the sole reason a battle could be won.
Here's the interesting part of that though, is that we go into a game type like Crucible and there's some way that they are able to mitigate or do we voluntarily mitigate our own power? If you are at say 962 and you're playing against a kindergarten who doesn't even have a full cloak yet, which I ran into one of those poor sods last night in Iron Banner. I don't know what he was doing in Iron
An
Banner.
Iron Banner?
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing. He was
Well
trying
then.
real hard though. I felt really bad. His name was Pizza something, and I felt real bad every time I killed him because you just automatically pull the trigger when somebody comes around the corner, and it had no cloak. He just had the little rag.
Oof.
Yeah. So, but in Iron Banner, obviously, power matters, but in like Crucible, normal Crucible, power does not matter. So obviously, that's a mechanic thing for us.
Yes.
But it is also explained in game. It is also very much so touched on in game because Shax talks about it, and so does Saladin. So how are we able to suppress our own light at that point in order to follow in with the rules?
Well, that could be something that Ghost is doing too.
It
Okay.
could be, yeah. There was an old theory I remember seeing that it's the ghost. Do we ever have an instance of a guardian using light when their ghost is gone? Like
That's
destroyed?
no, like it's arguable, but like the closest that you would see that is Eris or Toland. There's
Maybe
a few.
Kabir?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's also the argument that did Kabir's ghost actually, because we never
that's true.
we never knew
Just-
what, because it's like there's sometimes there's hints because there's like Shin technically doesn't have Tanashi anymore, but
Yeah, it was an old theory that ghosts were the like limiter from the light of the guardian
Mhm.
because they in the initial resurrection they supply us with light to resurrect us. We have the capacity to use the light, not the light already in us.
Mhm. We need what did Justin call it? It's the link in the chain
Yeah.
that helps.
But I mean, that's also why it's called
boost
out
it.
that it's the traveler's light, not our light.
Mhm.
Yes, which, if I bring back to my theory, would help the symmetries light connected across.
Mm-hmm.
Which I forgot to raise a point that since the EDZ is its own source in my theory, that our guardian may not have necessarily become its own source. We may have swapped sources instead.
Okay.
So
So-
since the traveler was inaccessible and we had a vision of the EDZ, we went there and basically swapped respawn points.
So does that mean at this point we are actually still using just the respawn point, or did when the traveler did its little awakening scene at the end of the Red War with Gaul and exploded out with light, which signaled this pyramid ships, did that reconnect us to the base traveler, or are we still connected to the EDZ?
I would say we were reconnected because the radiation of light did give the powers back to other guardians. I wouldn't
That's fair.
say it'd be weird if our guardian was the only one that didn't get it, especially when the
would it?
drifter, who was so far away, got his back as well.
Right, but would it? We were already connected. We were already set up with a power source. Maybe our power source. Now this is just total spin foil. There's
Yes.
nothing.
Oh, yeah.
If that's the
Attached to it.
case, if that's
But
the
if
case, that
we
would
are
explain
still
how we are
connected to-
so much more powerful.
Yeah, we're still connected to the EDZ shard,
It
while
could be
everybody else is connected to the traveler.
There's two possibilities: is that we're still connected to the EDZ shard in this case, or we have doubled down.
And double dipped. Oh
Yes.
Lord, talk about
'Cause-
double.
Because if we compare the max of D1, which was what, 300?
I don't remember.
I'm gonna say
It was
300,
like 320. I think was like
Yeah.
one of the max ones that we
3
got
or
back then.
320, and now we're at Shadowkeep. We're almost 1,000 if you don't include the artifact. I mean, is the guy up to 1,000 now, or is
He's
he still at 999?
He had gotten to 999 with the help of the artifact.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I mean, the increase is getting larger and larger. So I'd say, in my theory, it could be possible that our guardian is double dipping between the queso and the salsa.
That is
I
both
like-
disgusting and very
I love
apt.
this analogy. Let's continue on this road.
Are you
Hey.
hungry?
I am hungry now.
You know what you do? You put
Hmm.
some pulled pork in that queso.
Oh my gosh! Stop. You're making me
Sausage,
hungry.
Italian spicy sausage.
I have pulled pork upstairs. Not the ghost, actual pulled pork.
Yeah, so do I. I made some today.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
so good.
I
All
wrap
right.
it with brown sugar.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about
Okay.
instead of the theory on what's going on with our guardian and light, but just talk about the real kind of nuts and bolts and basics of light. So, most basic question for any kindergarten: what is light?
The best way I can describe it is light is paracausal, meaning when we use it, we can shape our destiny, our fate,
Mm-hmm.
based on how we want it to be. And the Volta Glass, we have that famous little ability, Guardians make their own fate, which is not
Mhm.
only true in the vault, but it is true in the physical world, the universe, because we can alter timelines with our paracausal, outside of physics abilities.
Okay. So, light, is it an actual animating force, or is like it is what wakes us up in some respects with the ghost and everything? So, with the ghost first charging us with the light, that's not necessarily a manifestation of our own insight, though, is it? Because it's the changing your own destiny. If that is, if it is a source to be able to utilize to change your own destiny or to manifest something that you are calling forth, which we've talked about in a couple different episodes. If listeners for a long time would know it from episodes 26 and episode 103 when we talk about concepts of light and supers and whatnot. But is our initial resurrection, though, following that same pattern?
I would say it's possible because there aren't too many. There's not any instances, I think, where a being is. I mean, aside from Fikrul, where a being is brought back with full consciousness and what is seemingly free will after death. Because Fikrul's got his scorn, which he puppeteers essentially. But outside of that example, I wouldn't say there's anything else where free will is still given. Taken have no will, scorn don't have any will. But it's always hard to say with a light because there are some sections where we know pretty well what it can do, but it's also very vague at times.
Chad is mentioning Taniks. Does that...
Yeah, I don't remember them ever explaining. I mean, he is like a lot of machine, but I don't think they ever explained how he was able to come back, just that he did.
Yeah, okay. He was,
have to look
he was always explained as just the headache.
Right.
Yes.
Cade referred to him as specifically the headache that you'd put down and he just popped back up somehow.
Right.
It may be because since the Fallen have such a machine-orientated civilization, that most of the parts we severely injure are just machinery that they can replace.
Okay. It's a little bit of the
Terminator.
Yeah, like when Terminator's replacing his face kind of thing. He's injured, but he can still recover.
Right.
It's just we as Guardians may assume he's dead. You know, they say about assuming.
Yeah, it does make a thing out of me and you.
It took me forever to realize how you spell assume.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my grandpa's favorite saying for a long time. It was the only way my mother would let him cuss in front of me. What falls under the purview of light? So we have a few different manifestations that we are able to conjure or call forth when it comes to light. We have the solar, arc, and void aspects.
Yes, they are often described as mostly a feeling, like in the Dawnblade card. They talk about you just think the word sword and it appears.
I would like to think the word sword and have it appear in my hunter's hands. Why can't my hunter do that?
It is a very good question, and from a mechanic point of view, it would make classes irrelevant. It would feel like, I mean, it would be cool to have like a combo swapping like that, but maybe it's a limitation of personalities. Like you're a lot of hunters have similar personalities, a lot of warlocks have similar personalities, a lot of titans have similar personalities with their crayons.
With their crayons? You just slid that right in there. Well done,
I did.
sir.
My buddy Hib was going to enjoy that.
That's all right. Okay, so
these similar personality types could result in them feeling more comfortable using light certain ways.
Okay.
So
would you still consider void an aspect of the light?
Yes, I would. One point, because we have the Zavathun strike, which they talk about void light quite a lot. But void isn't necessarily the darkness, but the lack of anything. Much like its name implies, void is devote of anything, or devoid of anything.
It's the absence.
Yes. The space between stars, the blackness of space.
So, and keep going. I'm sorry.
You can go. I'm probably going to pull something that wasn't coherent, but
I was just going to say that the aspect of the void in that strike, the line that always caught my eye is the fact that the hive do not have void light. They're not able to conjure it necessarily themselves, which point of order on that, Bungie. Why are shriekers shooting void at me then?
Hmm.
But they can't power that. The crystals are powered by void light. And the void light comes from guardians, which is something you discovered along that strike.
yes. They
So
pulled it from Guardians and put it in a crystal form.
right, which is an interesting thing when you think about, is Takeo of a Void Guardian blue? Do you remember what her subclass is?
Well, she's a warlock.
Wasn't she a Praxic Fire?
The thing is like Guardians can switch subclasses, so it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
like you're not like dedicated to it.
Absolutely.
The way I took it was that Guardians are capable of conjuring the light, and so whatever flavor the light it was needed, they could conjure it all. Now, and similar with like Wei Ning was able to conjure void light, but that wasn't her
Primary.
forte. Like her forte was definitely being a striker.
Striker.
You know, the arc. The arc was her strength. That's not to say that she wasn't capable of summoning void. It just was more difficult for her than for Zavala. Because
It's
I mean,
just
Being
interesting.
right-handed and trying to write with your left.
Right. You can still
Right.
write with your left. It's just going to be a lot harder. I mean, Zavala
just
seems to be able to flip between subclasses without really much thought.
But you have to. Isn't that part of being one of the Vanguard mentors, though?
Right.
That's
No,
one of the
yeah,
things
and
that discuss
that's
with
my
them.
that would be my argument too, is the mentors are probably going to be the paragons of each of those subclasses, because they're going to be mentoring guardians. That's the entire, namesake of it. But what that does show us is that it is possible to flip between. I mean, even we have
Right.
hints that Toland and Osiris did the same thing. Toland seems to be more void oriented. Osiris definitely seems to be more solar oriented, but we have quotes from both of them on the other subclasses. Like we have Toland speaking about wings of fire, and we have Osiris talking about the void. So it's
one of my favorite lines from Toland in that case would be him in full radiance, standing on Mercury and being cooled by the solar winds.
Yeah, I love that one.
I had an old card that said the temperature of Mercury was a few thousand. I have to check on that real quick.
So
But just
while
like
you're looking that up, my question is the fact that the hive pulled the void aspect out more an aspect of putting up the barrier. Void is oftentimes, if you think about like the original idea of the Titan, the Void Titan with the bubble, or even the Sentinel Titan now, where they put up a wall. Hunters bind things. Warlocks still just blow crap up because that's what they tend to do. But the way that the hive are using the void crystals is they're using it to charge these barriers. So we've talked about on the show once before the aspect of each of the void, the solar, the arc, the paradigms of light being different aspects of utilized in different ways. So void oftentimes is used as a defensive or a supportive class, again, except for warlocks because they're weird. But
and hunters now too, and
right,
sentinels can technically be offensive too.
Right, but
They
they
are
were
offensive,
initially
but
thought as a defensive type class, or like a binding class of some sort. The void was either used to bind things together or to block things out.
it could be because since the void light pulls from nothing, when, say, for example, a void blade cuts something, it's pushing this nothingness in between atoms to create a space of that nothing. Or if it's a void wall, since it's a barrier of nothing, it doesn't allow anything to go through.
It still allows what can still go through. Celestial Nighthawk will still go through. Certain Warlock supers will still go through, but yeah, and I understand what you're meaning by that. So it is still creating that barrier. It's still creating that aspects.
And if it's the void light barrier from the Zavathun, for example, it could be that it still allows light through
Mm-hmm.
because they're still similar
Okay.
flavors.
So
we talked before about Arc.
Well, real quick, Green, also
Go for
going back to the Shrieker thing. I think that it would also be worth noting that there might be a difference between void as an element and void light.
Yes, the 3 element cards we got in Destiny 1 said that these forces are fundamental forces of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So they exist in the universe, but our light versions are able to manipulate the natural versions.
We used to think, what was it? Strong force, weak force,
Mm-hmm.
kind of tied into it. What was the other one? I don't remember the last
strong
one.
force, weak force, and then
Was it? It wasn't gravity,
well, strong force
natural?
is gravity.
right?
Was it? You have strong, weak, natural, nuclear, gravity,
electromagnetism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been the Arc. The solar was the
gravity would be
fission
void.
aspect.
Yeah,
Mhm.
gravity was void, and fusion was solar.
I never saw it that way.
Because that was, I think that was an old Reddit theory, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting to think about if there are actual elements of the universe that we already exist in our world.
Right,
That
because
would
that
be
was the
somewhat
theory they were arguing for the 4th subclass being the weak force or radioactive
force.
decay, which would be the
Right.
green fire.
Oh, I remember an old concept on that.
Yeah, it was like, I think 2 or 3 years ago now. No, man, it might have even been 4
It was
years
a green
ago.
subclass, if I remember right.
Isn't that somewhat what we get with Thorn?
Yeah, that was the argument, was that if we
Mhm.
get a 4th subclass, they were hoping that the weak force would be the radioactive decay would be the 4th subclass, because then it would naturally align with the types of
like
forces.
A Thorn Golden Gun.
Mm-hmm. Now, you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
I mean, imagining a worse poison tick, or the fact that Dredgenyor's weapon is even closer to the Golden Gun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which is worse.
I don't know. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about the concept of the ghost being important when it comes to channeling light. We also have in lore and in game, at least in a few different points, the aspect of light bearers rather than guardians. How would you define light bearers versus guardians? Is it mainly just an alignment thing? Because I know we've talked about this before on the show, but this is for new listeners who may not be super versed in our back catalog, because we're almost to 200 episodes, or just in general theories when it comes to Destiny.
Right now I believe there are 5 terms used for people who can use the light.
Mm-hmm.
We have a risen, who is usually associated with a newly resurrected person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a general term, a broad name for people that use the light, like the Drifter, for example. He's called a rogue light bearer because he doesn't align with the city at all. He may be in the city and have a game, which in turn makes our guardians better, but he is not a guardian. And then we have the Iron Lords, who were kind of the early guardians who protected people against what was the warlords, or light bearers, who used their powers mainly to be tyrannical leaders of their territory. And the final term we have at the moment is Guardian, which is exclusively used for light bearers that protect the last city and humanity.
So, would Aphrodite still be considered an Iron Lord rather than a Guardian? Because
I would,
she's often doing her own thing, often her little bastion of not war.
Pacifist.
Yeah, pacifist
yeah.
colony.
I don't believe she ever revoked that title. So she would still be considered an Iron Lord, but just not a very active one. Like how Zavala's a Guardian, but he's not out on the field.
Mm-hmm. Just interesting because we call Drifter Lightbearer, and that's just because he hasn't adopted the name for himself as a Guardian. But in some ways, he's still participating in somewhat protection of the last city, more so just doing his own thing. But
He's in for his own salvation. If the city is his best shot, he's gonna use it.
it's just interesting how it's literally just kind of a slang term for who's your home based. Who's your home base? Who are you protecting?
Yeah, don't let it be said that humanity doesn't like making labels.
No kidding.
I mean,
Oh,
but I mean
man.
that also that to be fair, that is something that is needed. If you're going to discuss something, you have to have a label to discuss it, because
Yeah, it'd be like having a conversation where they did this, they did that, and you're talking about
Right.
two different groups.
Right, exactly. That's how I've always seen it, where it's like light bearer is the overarching term because you literally are a bearer of light, and then I know like they're calling Dino's calling out, it's the archaic term is the risen, was because it was literally that's what they were risen, like they rose up, they were resurrected,
Right.
Yeah,
So- Sorry, just a question then. When we were first risen
Mhm.
back in D1, our ghost automatically calls us a guardian. And that's
Again-
probably more so just kind of the tie into the speaker and the ghost knowing that objective and whatnot. And
Yeah, I was
having
going to say that's
organization.
also you could argue that's also a psychological buttering of the bread to start the
Right.
process of like, you're a guardian, if
you're
I
a good guy.
because
you're not a bad guy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
now
the
that I'm
speaker's
thinking
whole
about that,
deal protecting
now that I'm thinking about that,
the city.
what is, do they say that to Drifter?
There wasn't an actual establishment of guardians at that
Right.
point, because remember Drifter was long
Oh yeah, he was one of
ago.
the first. Yeah, that's true.
He-
But I mean, that's
here's,
the thing.
Here's
is
my
like,
question:
Yeah, go for it.
Is pulled pork smart enough to call Aldrin a guardian?
Assuming that
It
pulled pork
depends.
is his ghost, he does refer to he does pulled pork has on record stated that he is looking for his
He's
guardian.
looking for it. Okay,
So
it's just
now that's also, I mean, again, to be clear, that is an assumption that pulled pork is, I mean, I'm 90% sure pulled pork is his ghost, because I don't think that anyone could pass up the hilarity of that situation. But like we do know, because like when he's talking to oh god, just blanked
when
on
he's
her name.
scanning the rubble.
Yeah.
and he
My
says
guardian
something
could be
about-
really small, and you're like, oh my god, just
Yeah. Hey, I like him. He's adorable.
yeah, just
he is cute.
He might find the greatest
like you-
guardian all.
It's
I
like you
love-
protect your nice little idiot friend.
Yeah, it's Oh man, I love pulled pork. I love the little dig at the end of that card too, because it was like there was a moment where I was like, oh no, is that Dinklebot? Because they said
I
something
know.
about it, like they could discover the best guardian of them all. I'm like, oh no.
Well, there's your redemption story for Aldrin, by the way. If
Right.
that's the prep for
If
him.
that's yeah.
But oh
Chat.
god, Beard's reaction
He
to
was
that was
didn't he just like
hilarious.
he just like nearly hung up, like he was just like
He was
no.
so mad. I kept just digging and digging too, because it's fun to poke at the bear a little bit. All right, so we've kind of theorized about a lot of different things, but I kind of wanted to talk about the theories of what light is capable of doing. Not just as guardians, but light in general. Because we've seen aspects of the light create the visions. We had the traveler, we had the just the traveler bursting out. What can light do?
I would say that's a very tall order.
It is a really hard question. That's why I saved it to the end.
Because since the light is paracausal, it bends the rules of reality to suit whatever it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's safe to assume, at least, that the light is only limited by the imagination of its user.
The light. I am not Green Lantern. No, F you. I am not wearing the stupid ring. I'm not.
Just Green, you'll get this now. You'll get this now. Just don't make the suit animated.
Well, I mean, technically, you have a ring. It's just floating around you.
No. That's the stupid lantern. You realize he's the lantern / he's no. I am not having this conversation. We're not doing Green Lantern. Ryan Reynolds sucked at that role. Not lying. Don't care. The only midnight
Ryan
release
Reynolds
I ever went
admitted
to,
that he hated that role.
Yeah. It was stupid. Like, it was so bad. It was the only thing I ever went to a midnight release of, and I'm still mad about it years later.
Everybody is. Everybody is.
He's way better as Deadpool.
Instead of the ghost being the ring, how about the gloves our guardian never seems to take off? That's the ring.
I don't care what's the ring. It's the aspect of the
I love she's like, no.
I just don't want to be Green Lantern because he sucks. He's worse than Aquaman in my mind. But,
dang.
That's a harsh reality there.
I mean, okay, so if the light is able of manifesting things, does it have to have a director? Is there somebody who has to direct it at all times?
It's like
is it just a force?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, okay. My theory is that yes, it is.
There's another theory that has a very small amount of merit.
Mm-hmm.
That the inside of the traveler is a consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this consciousness drives the light.
Okay.
Yeah, but even in that situation, you still have an unmoved mover.
Yeah,
like you still have a sentient entity that is directing
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would have to go into the new book a little bit. Which
I'd like to keep that to the
I was gonna say let's do that.
Okay. Can.
Okay.
Because that's actually one of the questions I have for the advanced one is, let's talk about what gets unveiled.
Right. So how about we no kidding. How about we actually wrap up this episode, and I will preface the fact that the advanced episode, for those listening to this in the future, the advanced episode is going to cover, at least in part of the book unveiling. We're not going to cover the entire thing, but we're going to touch on at least some of the aspects from it. There's not going to be any spoilers. I've already told the guys they can't talk about anything but the 5 cards that we have as of November 8th, 2019. So
not the 6th card?
Nope, you can't talk about the 6th card. I'm not spoiling it for anybody.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry. I know it's revealing because I've read it. And I've had it read to me, and it's just every time it's nuts. So looking forward to next week when that actually drops, and the whole community goes, "What?" But we're not talking about it yet.
Real quick, Guardian in chat mentioned that the Traveler smells faintly of vanilla, which I like to think personally is the smell of light.
That I still think that's a hallucination. I think that
Could
they're calling it for themselves because Fenchurch is weird and
He is
probably
very weird.
hopped up on
He's a
stuff.
warlock, isn't he?
I don't think we actually have a
Yes.
designation for him. Is he?
I want to say yes
Is-
off the top of my head. Hang on.
If he's
I can
not a
check.
warlock, he's a hunter. Because I have
Yeah,
the
he's
old
one of he's one or
Finch-
the other.
I have the old Fenchurch postcards
Mm-hmm.
images.
Yeah, I have him
And
as a warlock. His
Okay.
ghost is named
That's-
Neville.
That
If
makes a lot of sense.
One of the images of him is him wearing what looks like a hunter getup a bit.
Interesting.
That also
he is
doesn't
also
surprise
wearing-
me.
Interesting.
He is also wearing what is a giant hat. So hunters are not known for that. But he did dress up as a fallen as well, so it's very touch and go.
Okay, let's wrap up because Blue just admitted something to me in chat. I want to get to the advanced episode.
So shout outs.
Yeah,
Should I reiterate what I have said before?
Yes.
do it.
Okay. You can find me, Did You Know Destiny, at Facebook at the same name, and Twitter and Instagram at DYK Destiny, a shortened version, and my new podcast, Now You Know Destiny, which is on every platform.
Nice. My shout out this week actually is for what would it once this episode comes out be later this week, November 16th. It is for the Guardians MH, which stands for mental health. They are formerly known as Saint 14 Project. They are putting on a charity stream for mental health for awareness and whatnot, and they have quite the lineup of streamers on it's starting at 11 a.m. Eastern on Guardians MH on Twitch. And they have people like Man at Arms, Nim Plays, Young Khan, Gamma Trap. Those guys are all going to be helping raise money for talking about mental health and everything. I do know that Man at Arms and his crew is going to be on the late evening because they have
As they should.
Yes, they have the go ahead once
I
they
met
hit
him.
past 9 a.m.
Yes.
or 9 p.m. to be able to curse because the rest of the stream is clean. So that's going to be happening and should
I
be
don't
a
think
lot
he
of
go
fun.
through an hour of not cursing.
I have heard Rick be very responsible and not curse. It takes
Oof.
a lot out of him.
Yes, I was about to say he also
No, but
groans
he
the
did.
entire time.
He does, but he can do it. I also may have talked to him about possibly coming on to our show because apparently he mentioned on his show that he would come on our show to catch just talk about time travel and the Vex and basically just go why at us the entire episode. So
His lore cards are the best.
they are pretty funny. If you haven't followed him on Twitter, you better do so because his lore. What is he saying? Lore is icy it kind of thing.
It's like oh no, I don't know. It's oh my god. He sends them to me
good.
every morning. I get a DM from him.
I
and
get
it's
one
like,
too.
I'm like
I do too.
I'm like, oh my god, you're killing me.
Let me pull one up. Let's just scroll back up. My understanding of lore.
Yeah.
Ridiculously powerful and intelligent supercomputer, probably nefarious, but it gave me a giant laser cannon, so it's like whatever.
He's a Titan, isn't he?
100%. He's
Not
Peregrine
right.
Greaves, man. He's the Peregrine Greaves, man. So yeah, he's gonna be helping out, and I know Young Khan will be there, and they'll be raising money for mental health awareness and whatnot for Project Saint 14 Project. So check those guys out at Guardians MH on Twitch. Blue.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed all the ones that I was gonna say. You know, just again, big shout out to the guys who are doing all the charity work this week and last week. Chat.
You know what's sad?
Wow.
My wife does not watch Destiny things, but she can quote that video. Your son will die. It's just like, okay, Julie, stop. Like, you don't watch videos, but you quote Man at Arms.
It's
like,
because
seriously,
she's a Titan. She's a Titan too.
she really is. She is. She's never played the game, but she really, really is.
Oh man. Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, so
Mhm.
all right. So as usual, until next time, goodbye.
Do 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 do. All right.
Ba-da-ba-da.
So, advanced episode where we get into all the semi spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe you haven't read it yet.
I haven't read anything.
I haven't read Lawless Frontier yet.
I've read that one.
Or
It's a good
A
one.
Forsaken Prince.
Oh, that one's a good one.
Or Woken
That
of the
one.
Reef.
Those are all good ones. I would read Forsaken Prince. Like that one's really fun.
I want to
'Cause
read
it
them in
get-
order.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
been lazy.
Well,
I'm
the problem
going
with
to
the
sick.
problem with like Awoken of the Reef and Forsaken Prince is they like cross and like they dip and dive into each other a little bit. So, what were you
Okay.
saying?
Oh, I'm just about to sick chat on Julie.
Oh,
How so?
Oh, you'll see.
Okay.
I'll remake a Titan for her.
when did they get added?
They have been added weekly. Eris gives them to you. They are, essentially
Are they? Oh,
decryption.
book unveiling.
They're-
Here it is.
Yeah, it's on Ishtar. There's only 5 entries right now on Ishtar, which are the only
Yeah.
ones I'm allowing us to talk about because the 6th one is a doozy.
Yeah. I was actually looking up the actual real life thing of that just a little bit before
Mhm.
the episode today. I'm like, I mean, too much jargon. I can't follow.
It's that's the P56, right?
Yes.
So
P53.
53, that's what it is. It's an actual chromosome. It talks about the chromosome. It's really well written. Like this book is really well written.
Who do we know if it was written by Seth?
I
I don't
know
think
for
this
sure.
one was because I
Okay.
want to say
Some points of it does I feel like has his writing in it.
I know they all wrote pretty interchangeably. Oh, I had it written down somewhere. I think Seth was because I know John did Inquisition. I have it down somewhere.
It's not going to ruin the book for me if he didn't do it.
No, but I mean, yeah, I know like they I know that like when I was talking to Guy, they all like got together and as usual, there was like one person who was obviously responsible for it, but I don't think it was Seth that did this one.
They probably talked in between to make sure it kind of lines
Right.
up.
They usually do. Like that's how they fact check each other all the time. So
Do we want to cover the first page we get?
I'm just looking at it right now. I'm trying to see if there's actually too much.
Because the first
What
page
did-
is just him talking about
According-
philosophy.
Yeah, he was a shoemaker. It does talk about the visible world as a manifestation of eternal light and eternal darkness. I think maybe just that line where it talks about that. Just kind of an introduction to it, not necessarily the whole card. Because Gardener and Winnower is where we start to get into a little bit more of it.
Is that how you say that? Winnower?
Winnower.
Winnower, okay.
Mm-hmm. Cosmology, yeah, that would be nice to have that show back. And you're right, Buru. Seth has expressed how grateful Seth is at the fact that this book is getting released.
yeah,
As it
actually, now
should.
that I'm thinking, I think Seth did. I think Seth did do this one.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I
Some
was
of the
I was
writing,
thinking
some of the
I was,
in-depth aspects of it.
Yeah, I was thinking that he had done the symphony, or no, not symphony.
Oh, Inquisition of the Damned.
Yeah,
that
Inquisition
one
of the Dead. That was
was
John.
John.
Aspect was A.G. Bosquilla, and then Letters from Eris is Paul Maestraniani.
Did Guy touch any of the books this time? I
Guy
know he
was
was the
narrative
head.
lead. Narratively,
Okay.
he touched everything.
Cool. Cool. Oh, well, that's... You
I don't
mean a
know.
buddy from back before DGS stopped doing podcasts. That's unfortunate. That's nice that he was a physicist, though.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
that's like listening to Craig.
not cosmology, cosmology. Okay.
Mm.
He has a lull in the middle of his cosmology. An extra OL, which makes it look like a cosmology.
A little bit.
If I remember right, he did a small paper on Oryx's orbit around Saturn and the size of
Oh,
the
that was
traveler.
him. Okay, yeah, I remember because that was back
Yeah,
when they were arguing.
Guardian 06 got his name down there in the chat correctly.
Yeah, because that was during the debate of whether or not the worm that we see on Titan was Oryx, I think.
Yes.
He was the one that was like, no, because it doesn't make any sense orbit wise. He basically showed that it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, Titan is outside the orbit of the rings, and he flew towards the planet. So and he would be circling the planet, not going into
I remember that article.
Saturn, so you wouldn't have to worry about another worm growing in the center of a gas giant. So they could change that with something hitting Oryx and knocking him into the planet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, cool. Where am I? Get this done. And we can start up recording for that part.
Oh, should I stop recording?
No. I have a backup running at the same time.
Okay.
All right. You guys good?
Yep.
All right.
1 second. Julie brought me hot cocoa. Thank you.
Ooh, that sounds nice. Is it cold where you guys are? Because I just look at 80s over here.
Oh yeah, lucky. It's like 20 something.
I think it's like 30.
Fahrenheit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Right now, it is currently 39 degrees here.
Oh, you're warmer than us. We're at 36.
I had a cool 75 today.
Oh yeah, today was the last cold day that we were supposed to get for a little bit. We're supposed to go back up to like 50. It was
supposed to get snow on Monday.
Yeah.
I like 50. I like high 50s.
Yeah, that's nice, especially coming out of like 25, 30.
I've never had to deal with that.
At any point, anything above 40 after 20 is a good one.
I saw this funny thing where this guy wanted the weather to go back to double digits, and then it went to negative double digits. He's like, that's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant. Just be careful what you wish for.
Okay, I am good.
All right. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on November 8th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the capabilities of light. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the hot chocolate loving Green Eye music lover. I am currently drinking
hot chocolate.
It's delicious. It is absolutely delicious. It's King's Coast hot chocolate.
Nice.
They have hot chocolate?
They do. Actually, one of my clanmates sent me this package, and it had hot chocolate in it from King's.
I gotta try that. I thought it was just coffee.
No, they have hot cocoa too, and it's pretty good so far. I've had 2 sips.
And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Volshak Berserker from the Do You Know Destiny account. Volshak, you still with us over here?
Oh yeah, it's getting late for me, but I'm the hot chunk warlock.
Hot chunk warlock? You're a hot chunk of warlock?
Yes, I am.
Ooh, the After Dark episode.
I mean, it is currently 1 o'clock for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess, as kind of was promised, we'll jump right into the conversation on the new information that we have about the capabilities of light as revealed from, I think it's Unveiling. Is that correct?
It's I want to touch a little bit on that. We're still talking about light and probably a bit about darkness this episode, but the entries from unveiling the book that has just started releasing, do give us some more questions and debate topics to discuss during this. So, yes. So I guess I'm going to start right in it because Blue did not pick up where I left off. I'm going to start with Eris's
It would require me to
cutscene.
have read it.
You know, I'm going to start with Eris's cutscene, and I know you've
Oh
seen
yeah, okay.
that.
I saw that one.
So that was with
The mini-
Eris
the
and
mini
the little
black heart.
smirk. Mini black heart. Do you actually see? That's my question. Do you want to
Did you actually watch this? 'Cause it didn't look like it to me.
and I'm going to describe it first for listeners who
Okay.
may or may not have watched it. In the cutscene, it is something that we recently got with the release of the Festival of the Lost. We see Eris approach the altar right behind where we pick up the artifact on the moon. And she reaches down to touch it, and you see this black I don't want to call it tendrils, black
Ooze?
tendrils. Yeah, it's like smoky, but also oozy, but also not quite. I'm trying to think of the venom. It's not quite venom like
It's not a
from
symbiote.
Spider-Man. No. It's just more smoke like, kind of attach and go and circle around the orb that she is carrying. And she pulls away from it. It dissipates. And then she thinks about it a moment, makes the decision that we all go, "Why are you doing this?"
Stop touching
And
stuff.
touches it again. When she I know, it's just stop touching things. Stop
it's
touching
caboose.
things.
It's caboose.
It really is.
Don't touch anything. Touch.
Uh-huh.
It is the
But-
worst throne I've ever seen.
She goes back in.
Yes.
She touches the pillar, the altar, essentially again, and you see only the shot from the behind her. You don't see everything going on in front, but you see the mass and the smoke and the tendriling type thing aspect. A mass collect, and then she turns around and there's nothing changed except for a little smirk
Oh, terrifying.
that is absolutely disturbing as all get out. So that's the cutscene. What is the smoky thing? What do we want to speculate the smoky thing is? Is it darkness, quote unquote? Is it symbiotic? Is it attracted to specifically the little shard that she has in her hand that she's carrying around?
Correct me if I'm wrong. There was a small thing of a Bungie employee saying that this pyramid ship race, the Veil, as we called it,
Mm-hmm.
is like how the Guardians are to the light.
Yeah, I think that was a theory that I've heard before. Is that they're the dark mirror to the Guardian.
Yes, and the old concept art showed them to be mist-like people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, or I mean, I guess you could draw the comparison that they'd be the phantoms hanging around, but it could be that how the Vex are a liquid race, they could be a gaseous one.
Okay.
Spitball here.
Yeah. I mean, there's very, very different imagery going on. The Vex, when the Vex are exploded and the Radioloria is spilled, it's very bright and light, which I've had many discussions with a colleague about how the Vex in his spinfoil theory he feels is actually part of the Gardener aspect or the light aspect, and that the Vex aren't actually enemies, but they're guards in some respects. But there's a lot of wrong in that and a lot of debate. But the Radioloria is very bright and light, and what we see in the cutscene is definitely not.
Yes.
It is very dark, foreboding.
If I could draw a small thing, it's there was an old line from D2 during a mission where Ikora was saying, if the Vex are the milk, why haven't they appeared in other states? Maybe it's possible that transitioning to a gaseous would be going too far into the dark that the Vex are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So the Veil are comfortable with this. That's why they are in this form. Very
Mm-hmm.
spin metally. I'm being.
Interesting. I do wonder if we have a little bit of information about what is going on with not necessarily the book The Unveiling, but with the new card that we got from books, letters from Eris, because this is an undelivered letter /
Yes.
deleted letter from Eris. I'll give you the link real quick. 1 second. Here it is in chat for you. Chat as well here. So in regarding the pyramid,
Okay.
it says, "My queen, I am at a loss. Never before have I felt so hopeless, so adrift, so tempted. Forgive me for my words, but I understand the allure of the darkness. It is quite a powerful sensation to feel it so free of care. My fractured mind thrills at the prospect of recklessly abandoning hope. I cannot say I didn't want it to take me. I was weak. I see this now. I may have faltered, but I endure. Do not mistake my weakness for betrayal. There are more pressing concerns." Just that entry part alone, before going into the rest of the card, the fact that she uses past tense, I didn't want it to take me. I was weak. I see this now. That sounds like it happens after she's touched the thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, I don't know if that's actually what happens.
Well, if it's regarding the pyramid, then I would say it would be safe to assume because she didn't know it was there until the beginning of Shadowkeep.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, time-wise, maybe it was a day before we got to the moon. So and then getting in, I would say not touching the pyramid would have been enough for her to feel the sensation. But like how we get close, it takes the ghost over.
Right.
And then once we get inside, it fully takes over. Maybe like inside the ship is the line where the allure can be felt.
The next entry that she talks about is, "We have been manipulated. We are right where it wants us. The darkness orchestrated its plan magnificently. The nightmares were so impeccably calculated to draw us in, make us vulnerable, and leave us exposed. The darkness plans to use us. We are to do its bidding. I don't know how to stop it. I detect no fear on the part of our nemesis. We aren't even a concern. We pose no threat. The darkness needs a reason to fear our light, and I intend to provide it. I have been inside. I have nothing but beautiful and violent words for my report. I will meet you at your throne," which, that right there, it does reveal that she's been inside.
And it does say beforehand, delivered, reconstructed. So maybe she reworded that letter. Because maybe she felt that the queen would have not liked the first draft.
It's just interesting that in this, and we were talking about light during the introduction episode, but in this section, it talks about the aspect that the darkness has no fear of our light. Now, this is darkness, capital D.
Yes. I feel like there is a small reason for that, which involves the 5th page of Unveiling.
No, we shall get there. Blue?
Yes.
What are you thinking so far, Blue?
I
Yes.
think he stepped. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
He stepped out for a second. Get some food.
We are.
Yeah, pulled pork was too much of a lure. No.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so we have the concept from there where Eris and the pyramid ship become acquainted on a more intimate level. Is darkness, capital D, this is just a very basic point, is darkness, capital D, the same as darkness, the aspect or the force or is darkness the aspect the same thing as light, just another side of it? Because we've had this debate multiple times.
I would say yes.
To which side?
How they are both similar in forces, just opposites.
Okay.
Given the unveiling book and my personal interpretation of what has happened in the game so far.
So, do you want to start diving into the unveiling a little bit and start explaining where we're at?
Well, let's
With
hope I
it?
can get past some of these very big words.
Yes. So,
Let's see it. As any story does, it's once upon a time.
in
It
the
was
very first entry, there's one line in particular that definitely brings to light the fact that they're the same force, just opposing sides of it. According to him, the visible world is a manifestation of eternal light and eternal darkness, and it is an internal opposition that eternity has revealed itself. There's a lot of eternal in that sentence, but it definitely is eternally two sides of the same thing.
I would eternally agree.
But the floor is yours, sir.
Oh man, I mean, to me, the darkness and light have always been the same because in most regular, as a regular story goes, in a case like this, it would be something of equal force and type, just opposing personality, which creates a like duality and a clash of ideals, which makes for great story.
So, because of the necessity to create a great story, they're going to be the clash of the same. It's just two aspects of the same.
Yeah. It. I can see them doing that as a way to have a great story. Plus,
Mhm.
it's always interesting to see what someone's take on it could be.
Yeah. Speaking of your Once Upon a Time, I
I'm
got a
wondering-
bone to pick a little bit with Seth on this one if he's the one who wrote this. Because he puts asterisks in and he makes the sentence coherent to read just straight through, but the asterisks, once you bring them in there, it's just like, dude, all these, dude, why?
He likes a little code,
He loves a lot of code.
like how the Aeon cult exotics were,
Mm.
but to a more simplified level.
Once upon a time, a gardener and a winnower lived together in a garden.
And
What
if
do
we
you?
expand that and be once upon a time, it was once before a time because time had not yet begun. A gardener and a winnower
Winnower?
lived. We did not live. We existed as principles of ontological dynamics that emerged from mathematical structures as bodiless and inevitable as the primes. Together in a garden. It was a field of probability that prefigured existence, which to me would be like the time before the Big Bang.
Mm-hmm. They existed because they had to exist. They had no antecedent and no constituents.
Yeah, they were like the unmoved movers.
Mm-hmm. And there is no instrument of causality by which they could be portioned into components and assigned to some schematic of their origin. If you followed their umbilical of history in search of some ultimate atavistic embryo that became them, you would end your journey marooned here in this garden. In the morning, the gardener pushed seeds down into the wet loam of the garden to see what they would become. In the evening, the winnower reaped the day's crop and separated what would flourish from what had failed. The day was longer than all of time, and the night was swifter than the glint of light on a falling sugar crystal. Insects buzzed between the flowers, and worms slithered between the roots. feeding on what was and what might be. The first gradient in existence, the first dynamo of life. Rain fell from no sky. Voices spoke without mouth or meaning. A tree of silver wings bloomed, yielded fruit, shed feathers, bloomed again. In the day between the morning and the evening, the gardener and the winnower played a game of possibilities. So, gardener and the winnower. To winnow something is to cut it away, to harvest, to separate it. Correct?
Yep.
First I've ever heard that word, so I'm going to agree with you.
So you have something that is growing, the gardener who is the grower, and then somebody who is reaping, the winnower. So in this one, oftentimes gardeners also are winnowers, which is an interesting thing to keep in mind. Gardeners also winnow. So at the time of fall, when Julie and I had just finished our summer season here in Colorado, we cut everything back because when you cut the plants back, it allows them to go into their kind of stasis until the next spring when they can regrow and they'll grow back stronger. So gardeners will oftentimes function as a winnower as well. Farmers do this every single year as well.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that since we often say, or at least I do, that the darkness and light are two sides of the same coin, it could be that they separated from each other and that the gardener is only focused on growing while their counterpart, the winnower, is only focused on reaping.
Mm-hmm. Now, an interesting thing comes in the next card in the definition or the rules of the game.
Actually,
you want to go back to it? Go for it.
So there's a difference between winnowing and threshing, technically. Reaping or threshing is basically so you reap, which is when you cut it down, and then you thresh, which is when you loosen it, and then you winnow it, which is when you separate it. So winnowing is separate from the actual process of reaping, or it's a congruent step that is a subsequent step within that process. So winnowing is often, you see things with like the Odysseus myth, where the winnowing fan, where he tells them to go take an ore to a place that has never seen the sea, so that the ore would be mistaken for a winnowing fan. A winnowing fan is really basically it's how you separate the grain from the chaff or from the hay.
Okay.
You also can use winnowing fans to separate out pests. So it's actually where you can basically you run air over it, and the lighter pieces get blown away, whereas the grains that you want to keep are remained there. That's where you get the winnowing fan. Really interesting.
Instead of creating a reaping, you have somebody who is allowing the proper aspects of the
it's a purification process, basically.
It's a crucible in some respects.
It's a crucible in a farm sense. In an agricultural sense, it's the same as a crucible, whereas with crucibles are much more metallurgy. That's actually a term in metal, which we discussed before. Winnowing is the same concept, but applied to agricultural paradigms. And in modern worlds, it's definitely become more mechanical. I can't talk about it right now. Mechanization has definitely taken over. It used to be done by hand, but it's actually, you're dealing with things that have already been reaped, which is, I think, an interesting component in this thing, because it's not like it's to kind of tie back into like the Trials of Osiris lore. This would be the judgment of Ma'at. This wouldn't be the actual process of Thanos coming and taking the life, but this would be the judgment of that soul that has been taken, whether or not to go on or to be fed to the devourer.
It's the weighing of the feather versus the soul. Interesting. So then we get the rules of the game. of which they play this game of possibilities, right? So, rule one, a living flower with less than two living neighbors is cut off, it dies. Rule two, a living flower with two or three living neighbors is connected, it lives. Rule three, a living flower with more than three living neighbors is starved and overcrowded, it dies. Rule four, a dead flower with exactly three living neighbors is reborn, it springs back to life. The only play permitted in the game is the arrangement of the initial flowers. So, anybody ever play, and I'm trying to think of what it's called, but it's
I
basically,
I bet you're thinking of the same game I am.
yeah. Is it the one with the white and black
Oh no, you're thinking
chips?
of what is it, Othello?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one, but see, that one's not necessarily a direct correlation because don't in Othello don't you technically you can make moves subsequently, right?
You can. It's not just the initial
Right.
placement.
There is a computer game. God, man, I played it in high school, which is why I can't remember it. But it was a simulation game, and it was basically kind of like this. It was an evolution game. You would set up your parameters, and you would go and you would set different conditions or whatever to single cell organisms, and then you would activate it, and then you just sit back and you'd watch the evolution of stuff go. And it was a game to see. It was basically, it sounds exactly kind of like a more simple version of this, but it was a game to see how far along the progress of evolution you could get.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it would implode on itself. But it was, yeah, there wasn't like rules, because like the rules that you just read, that reminds me of Othello. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's the, yeah. No, Oregon
Interesting.
Trail can just, no, chat. No.
You die of dysentery,
Dysentery
black
will
flag.
kill you no matter what you do.
So, the line that interests me the most in this one, just so far, is a dead flower with exactly three living neighbors is reborn. It springs back to life. Does that mean that we, as guardians, are the dead flower?
I would say no, because given the next few pages, it seems like paracausality was not part of the game.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, chat's saving me. Dino has got it. It's Conway's Game of Life.
Oh, it's literally
It's a
interest.
zero. It's a zero. It's a zero player game. So
Gotcha.
that's what you're basically being described as. It's referred to as a zero player game. So basically, you set it up, you hit start, and then that's your involvement. And Conway's Game of Life is it's like God, man, it's been so long since I've played this thing.
Like the
He was
board
like,
game life, or more
No,
no,
it's
no,
a
no,
it's
no.
a
This is
computer
it's a
game.
computer game. It's hang on, let me pull it up real quick. It's
I got it. Every
cellular
cell under
automation devised by British mathematician John Horton Conway in 1970. The game is a zero-player game, meaning that evolution is determined by its initial state, requiring no further input. And it's like it's a really cool game to actually to watch. But it also it shows like the ripples that can affect. Oh, okay. Dino's saying that the rules are from that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Like I
it
said, I
is.
haven't played it in so long.
Yeah, so the rules are any living cell with fewer than two live neighbors dies as if by
Okay.
underpopulation. Any cell with two or three live neighbors lives on to the next generation. Any live cell with more than three live neighbors dies as if by overpopulation. Any dead cell with exactly three neighbors becomes a live cell as if by reproduction. So it's just rewording those exact rules into the metaphor of the flower and the death in the garden and everything. Interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dino. I'm like, I knew I had played something like this, but yeah.
Interesting. So if this aspect of the gardener and the winnower is the fact that the gardener places the cards essentially, or places the flowers, the initial moves. No matter what the gardener lays, the whole day, the life cycle essentially, it happens. It runs the whole cycle of the game. At the end, the winnower cuts things down. Or does the winnower cutting things down progressively as it goes through?
Based on how the winnower is at night from the last card, because in the evening, the winnower reaps the day's crop, which made it seem like since the day is the gardener's domain of time allotted, and then once night falls, the winnower gets their play.
It always ends the same, the gardener complained. This one stupid pattern. Goes on to talk more about. Do you want to go on and do you want to talk about the final shape?
I would love to talk about the
Yeah,
shape.
considering that this is a
big one to me.
And a reference to much before.
Oh yeah. The final shape is brought up a lot in the Books of Sorrow, along with its counter name, the final pattern, or the pattern, which the Vex are trying to comprehend.
So, do you want to read it?
Okay. It always ends the same, the gardener complained. This one stupid pattern. Aren't they beautiful? I asked, as the flowers opened and closed, in patterns beyond the scope of entire universes to encode, all devouring and perhaps everlasting. Not even we could know whether a pattern in the flowers would cycle forever or someday halt. They're as dual as carbon monoxide poisoning, the gardener groused, although carbon monoxide did not yet exist, and neither did anything that could be poisoned. The gardener kneeled to flick a patch of sod with their trowel. It struck an open flower, causing it to shut. Although I was the closer of flowers, and that was my sole purpose, I felt no jealousy or fear. We had our assigned domains and always would. They're majestic, I said. They have no purpose except to subsume all other purposes. There is nothing at the center of them except the will to go on existing, to alter the game to suit their existence. They spare not one sliver of their totality for any other work. They are the end. The pattern corrected the errant flower effortlessly. The great flow went on unchanged. The gardener got up and brushed to their knees. Every game we play, this one pattern consumes all the others, wipes out every interesting development. A stupid, boring exploit that cuts off entire possibility spaces from ever arising. There's so much that we'll never get to see because of this pest. They chewed at their cracked lip, which existed only because this is an allegory. I'm going to do something about it, they said. We need a new rule.
I'm going to continue reading the first knife. Because I think this story, this allegory continues and brings up a lot of questions as we go. So this is the last card that we have so far as of November 8th, 2019. I looked up in shock. I said, "What? What do you mean?" "A special new rule, something to." The gardener threw up their hands in exasperation. "I don't know. To reward those who make space for the new complexity, a power that helps those who make strength from heterodoxy and who steer the game away from gridlock. Something to ensure there's always someone's building something new. It'll have to be separate from the rest of the rules, running in parallel, so it can't be compromised. And we'll have to be very careful so it doesn't disrupt the whole game." "All you will do," I said, with rising panic/fury is delay, the dominant pattern that will overrun the others. It is inevitable, one final shape. No, it'll be different. Everything will be different, everywhere you look. Everything will be the same. Your new rule will make great false cyst of horror full of things that should not exist, that cannot withstand existence, that will suffer and scream as their rich blisters fill with effluent and rot around them. And when they pop, they will blight the whole garden. Whatever exists because it must exist, and because it permits no other way of existence, has the absolute claim to existence. That is the only law. No, the gardener said. I am the growth and the preservation of complexity. I will make myself into a law in the game. And thus, we too became parts of the game, and the laws of the game became nomic and open to change by our influence. And I had only one purpose and one principle in the game, and I could do nothing but continue to enact that purpose, because it was all that I was and ever would be. I looked at the gardener. I looked at my hands. I discovered the first knife.
And this is where I think paracausality and acausality stepped in, which I guess would continue, so we don't have the next pages of this conversation, I would say would be the beginning of the universe.
Is it actually the beginning of the universe, or is it the beginning of the traveler itself entering the game?
Well, because in the earlier cards it says this was a time before time existed.
So they're
So
actually just playing the game out within.
yeah, to me it was them playing the game before time had even begun.
Mm-hmm.
Or another possibility, since the day was longer than all of time,
Mm-hmm.
it could be that each game was its own universe,
Mm-hmm. Its own cycle.
its own timeline.
If you want to go into kind of the Brahma type story, if you go into like Hinduism and the Eastern religions, you have the idea of the opening of the eye and the shutting of the eye. It is very, very biblical. That's very true, Black Flag. It definitely has that the powers before everything feel. So, if we go back to our concept of the light versus the dark, Blue, now that you've listened to this, and Berserker, do you feel that these two are actually the origins of light and dark, or are they the powers of light and dark? Are they not? Are they the players now?
Yes.
Is the power/player the same thing at this point when it comes to the traveler itself as being part of the game, or is the traveler just still another minion aspect of it?
The traveler part is hard to determine because we've only known of one traveler,
Mm-hmm.
but we do know of another agent of light. Would be the Leviathan from the Fundament of the Books of Sorrow. But there would only be two agents of light that we've ever heard of.
Blue.
I'm looking for something real quick because I have a thought.
You have a thought? Okay.
Yeah, there's an old artifact. I'm trying to remember where it is.
You're
Oh,
good.
from D1 Artifact?
Mm-hmm.
And well, there have been plenty of, I think, Agents of the Darkness. I would say the Hiver one, because it seems that in the original game, the final shape is what the Hive are striving for, So
Mhm.
they follow what the winnower believes, which always leads to the final shape, which to the hive was the sword logic, but recent events have that faith wavering.
Well, that faith is wavering only because they want to find another way around it. They don't want to follow
Hmm.
that necessarily.
They still want to
Ah,
find the final shape.
Blue found it.
Yeah, the sins of Karadtan is a knife. It's a warlock item. It's a stone blade, and it says, "For you are not the first hero, nor even Oryx the first villain to meet upon this plane." So
Oh,
anytime when you guys, as soon as you said first knife, I was like, I know this because this thing has been bugging me for how long
Ages.
has years ever since it was introduced. Um, it's up there with there's another one. It's the Rainbow Blade, which is the ceremonial. It's a beauty of a sacrificial weapon belies the deadliness of its infinitesimally sharp blade. Um, there's a couple really interesting artifacts from D1.
rainbow
There's the
knives.
Rainbow Blade. Uh,
So, like Aurora knives?
uh, no, no, yeah, I can see that argument here. I'll shoot you the. It's an argument. It's an artifact, so it's like an actual handheld dagger. But then there's also like the scroll of Imen-Ten, which is the last record of a long dead civilization. Um, you have a couple different things like that, and so that's when, as soon as you said first knife, though, that's what jumped in my head.
Oh, well, let's. Do you want to read P53? Because I have it pulled up. If you want to really blow Blue's mind here in a second.
Okay. Where is it?
I've got it. It's not on Ishtar. I had to pull it
Yeah.
up in game. So if you want, I can go ahead and read it and then let Blue go nuts with this one because this one's definitely going to bring up a lot of questions. Because if we're going to talk about who is the winnower and who is the gardener, this one
Oh,
definitely
this
brings
one
that one.
this one makes us question a lot.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for making room in your life for another talking ball. Let me ask you a question. If in the 3 billion base pairs of your root species genome, there is a single gene that codes for a protein called P53, the name is a mistake. The protein weighs only as much as 47,000 protons, not 53,000. If you are a cell, you would think P53 was a mistake too. It has several coercive functions to delay the cell's growth, to sterilize the cell when it is old, and to force the cell into self destruction if it becomes too independent. Would you tolerate a bomb in your body waiting to detonate if you deviate from the needs of society? However, without P53 as an enforcer, the body's utopian surplus of energy becomes a paradise for cancer. Cells cannot resist the temptation to steal from that surplus. Their genetic morality degrades as tumor suppressors genes fail. The only way to stop them is by punishment. You now confront the basic problem of morality. Is it is the alignment of individual incentives with the global needs of the structure. Patterns will participate in a structure only if participation benefits their ability to go on existing. The more successful the structure grows, the more temptation accrues to cheat, and the greater the advantage the cheaters gain over their honest neighbors, and the greater the ability they develop to capture the very laws that should prevent their selfishness. To prevent this, the structure must punish cheaters with a violence that grows in proportion to its own success.
Mhm.
My question follows. Is P53 an agent of the darkness or the light? That is in the card, Blue. Like that
Yes.
question at the end, that is in the card.
Yeah, it's that's the. I mean, I love the presentation of it being the basic concept of morality too, because
Mm-hmm.
that is actually that is very synonymous with, I mean, pretty much any any philosophy that has dealt with morality from back in Socrates all the way up to I mean, current day. I mean, this is also very Machiavellian in the sense of the punishment component. It's very similar to what was taught in The Prince. You also see it within the idea of, even Plato and Socrates. Socrates and them, they would debated. It's the debate against egocentrism and allocentrism ultimately. So like your individual incentives is the egocentrical, and your global needs of the structure would be the allocentrical, or the serving of the other.
So
But
it's still the same aspect of
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, go for it.
it's the fact that the darkness and the light are in some ways very similar. It's just the perspective of what side are you on at that point in some ways, right? So
Right, and I mean, but that's the challenge, right? Is with the example of like the golden rule, or the golden rule is often quoted as being one should treat another as, or one should treat other as one would like others to treat oneself. So you treat the other person like you want to be treated. Basically, it's the golden rule, or summed down. But and this is where modern psychology really starts kind of running rampant. Because in modern psychology, we have a lot of what's referred to as deviations from the norm with regards to even self-care. And so it's starting becoming more and more a degree of perception, because what is good for yourself, that might not be what you want for yourself. There's individuals out there who are, that are self-harmful. And so the question then becomes, does this normative philosophy of the golden rule apply to those individuals in the same way that a normative ethics and then the normative philosophy apply to, quote unquote, air quotes there, a normal person? What is normal? What is good? What is right? What is wrong? You see this a lot of times within historical wars, even modern wars. One example being currently the environment over in Turkey, Turkey and Syria. The whole thing with that environment is, one side is saying I am right, you are wrong, and the other side's like, no, we are right, you are wrong. And it's the whole thing of your perspective determines what your definition of right and wrong is, what's light and dark. It's very rare it's very rare to see an army on the side of darkness that admits that it's on the side of darkness. That's not something that is normal. And you see that even in Destiny, and in Destiny 2, with the introduction of Destiny 2 Vanilla, they presented Gaul as a hero in his own story. That's
Right.
what makes a villain so compelling, is he's only a villain to us. He's not a villain to the cabal. To the cabal, or to his structure or his political alignment, he is their hero. He is, he was the one who came up from nothing, who rose against the system, who protected them, who gave them voice. Whereas, on our side, we just see him. We only see the conclusion of his story in so far as he comes into conflict with us.
Right.
But I mean, that's
here's
where the whole thing with the P53 concept is interesting, because it goes down to I like the pattern, like I kind of review that, or I see that as a Machiavellian logic, is as you grow in benefit, the more successful the structure, the more temptation to cruise to cheat. Thus, you need to, in order to
the
prevent
punishment
cheating,
is in
your punishment needs to become more severe,
proportional.
basically. Yeah.
Which is something we've talked about before. The
Right.
stronger the light, the more the darkness, quote unquote, comes towards
it's
it.
a symmetry. Yeah.
Right.
And I like the idea of the utopian concept. That's an interesting thing, and how it becomes, the surplus of energy becomes a paradise for Cancer, which is biologically, if I remember correctly, that's actually very accurate.
That is accurate. I can tell you that one.
Okay, because like because I think the protein causes cancer, if I remember right. Doesn't the P53 cause cancer?
If P53, if it gets modified or if it gets corrupted and isn't able to do what it needs to, then the cells will run rampant. P53 is the equalizer. It's the one that will
it's the
shut things
equalizer.
down.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Without P53 as an enforcer. Okay, I got you. Yeah, biology
So,
is not my
yeah.
strong suit.
So if a cell gets modified and can, so when a cell becomes cancerous, its genome is modified, it's mutated,
It's
and if
punished.
if P53 gets shut off in it though, and it is able to reproduce itself and modify, that's when you get cancer cells.
That's interesting because they're saying that it's a genetic morality. Oh man, that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It
dangerous.
is.
In a real life thing, cancer happens in the body a lot.
Mhm.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
all the
that your
time.
body is able to
yes.
take care of it.
Yes. Which is why one
But-
of the really successful early, not cures, but early treatments for cancer is amping up the body's own resources for fighting it. Is actually it's not always work. It doesn't always work, but it's one of the things. God, man,
One of the
genetic
things
morality. Oh Lord.
The
Right.
Gallahorn of treatments.
Kind of. One of the things with the genetics aspect, though, too, and this is something that is kind of brought up in the P53 card, is the fact that it is needed. The system cannot be just growth without some sort of decay itself. It cannot modify and change. That's how we grow as a human being. There are things that, granted, we can continue to grow certain things, but if we cannot shut those things off or have somebody to, I'm not going to use the word winnow, but it's very apt in some ways.
No, it
to
is. It
use
is. And I would argue that here's my one beef to pick with that. What you're describing with the P53. So like when you say morality, morality is the distinction between right and wrong, or good and bad behavior. It's not what you're talking. What P53 is survivability. It's an anthropomorphization of humanity to put emotional decisions on something of that nature. That's like saying predator and prey is
right, but
moral.
I'm not trying to say that it's moral for there to be the conflict. I'm saying
I'm saying
necessary.
by them saying I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying the way I'm reading this, it says their genetic morality degrades. That's a misuse of morality.
Okay.
Because you're applying ethics to a genetic natural process that there is no determining factor on ethical behavior. Like you can't apply ethics to something that has no sentience and isn't able to determine whether or not it's right or wrong. It's created to serve a purpose, which is that of the survivability of the being. Now, what I'm saying is P53, to use P53 as an example of ethics or morality, I would disagree is not a great. I see what's going on, but I disagree
I think it's
that
still
it's I don't think it's the best example, because my problem there is that the idea of a protein having ethical understanding is, from a philosophical standpoint, I think on thin ice, because you're getting into really dicey subjects matter there.
Maybe that's the point.
Well, and that's
I think that really is the point.
Yeah, see, genetic morality.
I think it's the aspect that
wants us to see it as favorable.
But it's not necessarily, and this is the discussion we had at the very beginning, is darkness and light the same side, or two different sides of the same coin? In some respects, that's what this card is also pointing us to, is the fact that, can you 100% say that the light is the one who is going to be, because it's promoting health within the system, be P53, or is that the darkness because it is the one that is preventing growth?
It's neither.
It's both.
Yeah, it's neither. I mean, again, I guess
It's not solely one. It's the gray.
Yeah, because P50. I mean, because it. I think chat's actually kind of talking about this too. Where'd it go? Yeah, like Dino's quoting Ruby, and it says, "You may bask in the powers of creation, but you do not own them."
Right. I still say this is an allegory, though. This is not an actual. I think it's just it's being
and I
used as
get
an
that.
allegory.
Right, and I get that. My qualm with it is that I don't like the allegory, but that's not, that's just simply because I'm probably understandably reading more into it than it probably meant to be.
Yeah, because I feel like the darkness wants us to look at it at surface level and then sow seeds of doubt.
Right. And
yes.
And that, right. And because that's like, I'm looking at the entry, and it's like the introduction of the concept of P53 as an enforcer, okay, I see the allegory, right? Your body is a utopian surplus of energy, which, yes, that's correct, blah, blah, blah. But then it goes and it says, you now confront the basic problem of morality. I'm like, wait, what? What? No, that's not. So whatever. And it's the alignment of individual incentives with the global need of the structure. I'm like, okay, I see the allegory. I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
You have an allegory much better suited for this kind of concept within, like, Plato's Republic of the invisibility ring, which is the question of, if you can get away with whatever you want, would you do good or would you do bad? That is an allegory that's more fitting to the concept of morality, because the person, the actual item making the choice actually has a degree of consciousness and a degree of conscience that is actually being acted upon. Whereas you're saying that a biological component that has no deriding.
But I actually think it is more apt that he uses P53 because it is not sentient. It is a force. And so is the light and dark. It is not actually a sentience. It's a force. So you can't assign, like you said, you can't assign morality to something that is not sentient per se. In this event, if the rules are for that force to do just what they do, for the winnower just to cut or to winnow away and the light just to grow, it makes more sense for P53 to actually be a part of it rather than assigning sentience and assigning like humanizing them, because they're not human, they're forces.
Right. So you can't I think I'm gonna have to be fair, I am fully aware that I am probably overthinking this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to reiterate that I am fully aware that is probably what I'm doing. My biggest problem again is that the idea, a force cannot be inherently good or evil. It's not possible. Gravity is neither good nor evil. It is just gravity.
And I think that's the whole challenge of this card is that
it's not,
you can't assign light or darkness. Light and dark does not equal good or evil. That's the whole point of the card.
Based on human moralities, most people would assume that it's a good.
You would. But I think the whole point of this card is to say that light and dark are just forces, and that that it's not a morality aspect, that you can't actually assign the morality to it, that it is literally just a force of nature and inevitable.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I see Dino saying, but whether or not darkness is necessary.
It is necessary, though we never liked admitting it.
Well, I mean, that's like saying, that's the whole debate of mortality in general.
Well, that's the whole debate of Ulantan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Symmetry.
But I mean, like, you're talking about human morality. Human morality human morality generalizes death as quote unquote bad. It's like, well,
it's not, though.
No, it's not. It's natural and it's necessary. It's not
life
good
wants
to the
to do exactly what they're saying in the book. Life wants to sustain. Life wants to go on.
Before we go to from the Ulantan thing, he does bring up a interesting point in one of his more recent lore tabs is that if life exists, okay, here it is. It's from the Symmetry Flight ship. Truth beyond this truth, the truth which you most dread. If we could destroy the darkness, but we had to give up our light to do so, how many of us would make that trade? So it's like how we've been keep saying that the light and dark are the same coin, that darkness is necessary because we have this light, light is necessary because we like it. So if we get rid of both, what would happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a chicken and egg argument is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I hate chicken and egg arguments.
The thing that'll be interesting is to see moving forward, which granted I know some of us have seen already, but see moving forward how persuasive.
I haven't read past P53.
Oh, it's interesting.
I want to read it as I collect it.
Yeah. And I think that's a good idea, especially
is the
considering
next
some of the
one available?
context.
It's two.
The next, technically, because of the glitch from the first week, people were able to grab more, which is why some people are 2 cards ahead or 3 or 4 cards ahead.
We
Luckily,
know the names
nobody
of them, right?
has.
It looks like
Nobody has been jerky enough to post them. Luckily, or if they have, people have either spoiler tagged them or
the site that I'm looking at
warned.
has the names of the 11 cards, but nothing. They've blocked the actual content.
Which is nice of them to do.
Yeah. That's why I like light.gg is basically another place I go to dive into the database because it'll tell you the actual hex values of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have read T = 0 and the Cambrian explosion.
Okay,
as
so
well,
that's what I was going to ask. Is that the next two? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Which we're not going to get into because
Nope.
Spoilers.
Read Patternfall. Okay, I'll get to it when I can. Dino, I don't have access to that one yet, so I will try to find that one. But I'm at the end of it. If we wanted to rule this back to the concept of light, I know we've been talking about unveiling pretty heavily, considering that it has to do with kind of sort of the lightness and dark and the concepts there.
Mm-hmm. In short, Blue does not like causality dilemmas.
It's a headache.
Oh, I mean, they always are. I mean, that's the annoying thing about the causality dilemma is that it's like, which one came first? I'm like, I hate you. Just go away.
The answer is just yes.
Just go away.
The answer is always yes to both. They exist because they must.
Yeah.
Or they exist because they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like it's like when you apply for a job that you need experience for, but you need the job to get the experience.
Trolley problems suck.
Yeah, trolley problem. Yeah, trolley problems. Trolley problem. That's a whole different bag of worms.
I'm not familiar.
Trolley problem is the psychological thought experiment of you're standing at a breaker, you're standing at a lever, and there's a trolley coming down the tracks and the brakes don't work. And on the track that it's on currently, there is one person tied to it. But on the you can divert it, but if you divert it, the track that it's on has 5 people tied to it. But you can divert it, but if you divert it, the track that you're going to divert it to has 1 person tied to it. So which one do you do? Do you do nothing? Do you do nothing and let the 5 people die? Or do you do something, you get involved, and you let the 1 person die?
If all 5 of them were to jump from the back of the train, would the speed be less enough to where they can?
No. It's like that's the thing. Experiment. It's like the basis of the experiment is that's the situation, and you can't change it. Like, and that's what makes the trolley problem. It's like it's one of the like watching people uncomfortably answer it is like one of my really weird like joys is like because I've had to do it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very similar, right? Yeah. It's I mean like the thought experiment is basically is at what point does your discomfort kind of activate, and what do you determine on if you don't get involved but you're choosing not to get involved? Is that still argued as being involved? Like it's what's and there's different variations of the trolley problem as time has gone on.
Well then.
What? I'll just come dressed as a psychologist to Guardian.
This
Con.
is a little.
I have a question for you.
2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
I think we should start wrapping up, mainly because I kind of
definitely.
want to yell at Dino for sending me this card, because now I'm a little mad about this card. Hi. Shout outs.
Yeah. Volshok, you want to lead us for shout outs?
I said my things twice now, so I'm just gonna say, my buddy's in my group, Hip Nuts. He's our audio specialist and grammar checker, though we do fail sometimes. And my other buddy, Lost Angel of Havoc.
Nice.
He does our flavor cards. And he has a line of skits.
As well as an album.
And that too.
Sorrow's Road. Yeah. Gotta love my boy Havoc. That guy's creative and way better at mixing music than I am.
Same here. I know how to put an audio file into the timeline, put a video file in the timeline, and press export.
Mm-hmm. My shout out is going to be another, I know this is going to be a repeat for us this evening, but for those people who are listening to the advanced episode, if you are downloading this immediately on Friday, November 15th, tomorrow, hello future people, tomorrow is the Guardians Mental Health charity stream with Man at Arms, and basically the formerly known as Saint 14 Project, doing a charity stream to raise money and awareness of the concept of mental health and being aware and reaching out and understanding it. So if you want to drop by Guardians MH on Twitch and give them at least a view, if not, a donation, or at least spread the word about it, that would be amazing. Second shout out goes to Dino for giving me another headache to think about this evening as I read through that card that he sent me, because now I want to go back into stories about the 9.
Oh God.
Blue, your turn.
On same as yours. On the 17th, we're gonna have our second Destiny quarterly loan review with Lore Network, and it's starting
in there.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say go check out who was it? Baxter? I think Baxter. Did Baxter
yeah.
Did he post it on the
this.
Ishtar, or did he post it from his own? Okay, cool. I can never remember which one he goes from.
Check the supporter channel.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so yeah, Baxter has been really kind enough to put together a question submission document. He's really good at those. So he put together one of those for us to use for that conversation. What that is about 9 a.m. Central. We'll be streaming basically a video conference call, basically, of different people from within the lore community. Right now, I think we're going to have the Guardians of Lore team. We're going to have the Focus Fire team, so that'd be Green and I. Bife, I believe, is going to try to... I think Bife is going to make it. Mylan wasn't able to make it this week. He's on the road for something. I can't remember what he said. He was traveling. But we also have the Loose Cannon Show group, which is Baxter, Anon Pig, and Rhino. I know I asked Beard. I don't know if Beard got back to me.
Is Guardian 21 going to be on there again?
Yes. Sorry, Guardian. Yeah, Guardian 21 is also on there. He's the Loose Cannon team, and then Rhino is also from the Destiny Armory Defined. So, yeah.
I should wear my way into the next one.
Yes. I have to. It's one of those things where I have to get scheduling. Those things are fun, is what I've discovered. Yeah, and then also thank you, Green. Shout out to Bungie for the Games to Give charity. I believe that is currently going. I saw something about like they had like 30,000 donators, like some just ridiculous amount. Let me make sure I said that right, because I think currently right now they're I think it's T1 Riot. 30,000 unique donors, 4,736 individuals, and 410 teams streaming for D2 Games to Give.
I know Sarah Daniels is coming up. She's one of the days in the future.
Nice. Because I think their goal is 2 million by November 10th, which is going to be 2 days from recording. So, I mean, yeah, just another example of video games aren't bad. But yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. Written papers on it.
Oh yeah, no, I have as well. So yeah, just if you guys have a chance, please be sure to swing by on the 17th. I will give another shout out on the 15th, which won't hit the feed until after, sadly. But so that's what I got for everyone in the future. Green, did I forget anything?
Nope. Bye, chat. Bye, guys. Bye. Goodbye.
Until next time, goodbye.
See you later.
Okay. You can stop recording if you haven't already.
Cool.
Hey, Drunk Destiny. Thank you guys for rating. We had just finished up our discussion on unveiling. Drafty! What's up, man? And Nate Foo.
Oh, I need to give you guys a folder, don't I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Export as how fast is your internet speed and your PC? You play on PC, right?
I play on PC now. It's
Okay.
I get 100.
And your upload speed's pretty quick?
40.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I was just trying to debate whether or not to ask you to send as a WAV file or an MP3, because a WAV file is significantly larger.
No, I'll do WAV.
Sweet.
Yeah, I won't get around to editing them until tomorrow night at the earliest anyways, so share, that's what I need.
How long is it going to take to export this?
Oh, so
Are we still
weird.
live?
Yeah, we are.
Oh.
This is the After Dark episode, or After Dark
episode.
Yes.
It's going to take half an hour for me to export this.
Yeah, no
Nate
worries.
Foo's still weird not hearing y'all at 1.5. Do I sound... Yeah. I mean, I've always wondered if it's terrible to try to listen at that super fast rate, because I know how fast I can talk sometimes.
I listen to everything at minimum. I listen to 1.5.
God damn.
Which is really
FFC,
so. The only
After
time
Dark.
I'll be honest, the only time I notice it is when they play music, because it sounds weird as hell. Yeah, like like they'll do like lore, mythology, and a couple of the other ones will have like they put like little breaks in the podcast, which is fine, but then they fill them with audio file, and it's like it's so Unobscured does it too. Unobscured is really bad. Like he paces it out really big, and like
interesting.
It's like it would be fine if I was listening to it at normal speed, but because I listen to it at 1.5, it actually jumbles up the music audio, so it's really
weird. Did I see the pic on Twitter? Which did you just post it? What, I haven't seen a pic on Twitter. Did you post it to the FFC Twitter, or did you post it to my Twitter, Doom? So Blue's brain goes into Ultra Instinct.
Mm-hmm.
What color would that be for him?
I don't know. Are we just talking synesthesia color now?
No, Ultra Instinct's Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Because Goku goes silver, Vegeta might go green.
At the beginning, mine? Okay. Oh, there it is. Oh, nice! Which shuttle is that? And when I went to Orlando a few years ago, very first Guardian Con, Julie and I actually went like second Guardian Con. No, it was in Tampa. It was at the fairgrounds. First Guardian Con Julie and I went to together. We went to the Space Center, and those things are fucking huge.
Yes, they are. I haven't been able.
My
I live here,
God.
and I haven't even gone.
It's amazing. It's so cool to go stand by him. He's a model of Saturn V.
Oh shit!
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like standing next to just the boosters at the bottom. Jesus Christ, I am tiny compared to that thing.
Yeah, I used to, when I was little, we would go down to NASA in the Houston area for space camp. And it was always like, yeah, they had all their stuff set up that you could crawl in, like the Apollo landers and stuff like that. And even as a kid, it was like, holy, you get in that thing and you're like, well, like the Apollo lander was deceptive too, because it looks so big, but then you get in it and you're like, there is not a lot of, like, this is me as like an 8, 9-year-old. And I'm like, even then I was like, there is not a lot of space. Like, this is tiny inside.
It's a small capsule with a bomb underneath you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm tiny, Black Flag, but even then it's insane. It is just like, even like the shuttle, not like talking about the Saturn V, but the space shuttle that's been retired. I want to say Endeavour. That thing's even huge. Not nearly as big, but Jesus. It's Doom, I suggest it. It's really cool. Especially if it's nice out.
During the next Guardian Con.
Yeah, like there was like a astronaut talk that you can go to, and they had what looked like almost a warthog, but it's a rover that they're
a Puma?
I don't remember what it was actually called. As far the warthog is in from Halo, you knew what I meant. They have like a rover that is a prototype for what they're talking about possibly using on Mars someday.
Yeah. Have you seen the Artemis project prototypes? They're really cool.
I don't know. What is that?
What is that? Just read it. Just read it.
To be honest, he cosplays, like cross-dress cosplays way too well. Did you see his Nier Automata one?
Yes.
Who are we talking about?
Datto.
Oh.
That's also really good makeup, by the way.
Oh yeah,
a lot of that.
I know, but still, I'm like, no.
Did you see that? What's his name from Tesla put out how much it would take to get to set up a settlement on Mars?
20 years and 1,000 ships.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Datto with a blue wig? And
it is. Have you never seen him cross-dress as a Nier Automata?
No.
The girl from, oh my god, it's so good. Like, I was super impressed.
It's impressive as hell.
I didn't know he did this.
He does
Not
it
very often. A lot of time it's raising money.
The fun one was when he went to what is it?
The convention?
Yeah, God, which one was it? It was one of the big ones. He went as Nier Automata and confused the hell out of everybody.
Datto as Bulma is really funny too.
No. I'm trying to find it. He doesn't have
Here's the Nier Automata one.
PAX, thank you. Yeah, they were talking the other day about how it's now gotten to the point where really the only people who can do space exploration for like consumers is Tesla and Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've gotten to a point where they've been developed. It's not because it's not because the information isn't there. It's that because
that's Nier. I thought that was Bulma.
That one is Nier. That's 2B. Here's him as Mad Moxie.
I'm allowing it, Dino, because I agree so hard.
Elon is a bastard. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not.
He's a twonker.
He's a bit of a twat.
Like yeah.
I think Datto went to the frickin' Borderlands 3 release as Mad Moxie. Not gonna lie.
How did he do? I don't get. How did he do that?
Makeup.
How do you makeup? Really, really good makeup, and
Not just that.
just the chest.
Yes.
That's actually not that hard to do. That's not that hard.
Yeah.
I could teach you how to do that.
Yeah, it's there's some really interesting optical illusions, basically.
That, and you can create a bit of a chest on a guy just by a little bit of tape.
You've seen how skinny I am. That's impossible.
Nope, can totally do it. I could do it with you. It just is not the most comfortable thing.
I got nothing to move.
Vuru is right on the money. Like I'm like
Datto's confusing your orientation. Did you see here's the Mad Moxie one. I am super impressed by him being
don't get me wrong. I'm
impressed. I think it's not easy to do good ones. Like to do a good cross dress is difficult. He pulls it off way too easily.
He's got the legs for it.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. He did a KDA one as well.
Oh, yes, I did see that one. Yeah.
Oh my god. He's got tiny legs. Like he is a small guy. In order to be a successful crossdresser, you either have to be a really small guy or a really big, like chunky guy. Those are the two ways you can do it.
So not me.
Yeah, which member from KDA was it?
That's the last one I put up. He's the one with the face mask.
Oh, okay, the spray paint.
Oh yeah, Acolyte.
Mm-hmm. But like, look at his leg.
Achille.
Just way too well done.
Which one is he?
Oh,
the one with the face mask.
So Danielle does his makeup.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a
Mm-hmm.
lot more sense.
I would never know.
Yeah. That's the amazing thing. Like, if you do it well.
But since I do know, it's confusing.
It is confusing. Here's another one. I'm slightly intoxicated when my bed is looking good right now.
If I didn't know better and had the courage, it was in front of him, I'd be hitting on him.
Yeah. Yeah, Miss 5,000 Watts also works on his makeup too.
Yeah, see, like that one you can tell a little bit.
Yeah, the stomach part.
Yeah.
Well, the face too. To me, the face screams that.
A little bit in the face, yeah. I mean...
Oh, 5,000 watts.
No.
So did you see her post about the mouse pad?
No, I hadn't.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's so funny. It's from I think is it Demon Slayers? Is that what that is? I'll see. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. It's so funny.
I freaking have so much respect for Datto. There's
Datto. Dealing with Guardian Con the way he does, I can't. You can't. It would take a lot for me to lose that respect. Where did that thing go?
The one with the girl
drag racer, but I can't run in heels.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Drafty.
This one. She's like super excited about it. And someone was like, "Did you get the ones with the wrist rest?"
Oh dear God.
Because they have them, you know. And her response, her response. Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
She's so funny.
She cracks me up. It's not one of those raised wrist rest ones. And she's like, those are fantastic, but man, they are the tiniest mouse pads ever. I'm like
everything else on there.
I'm like, oh my god, yes. I just love the answers that she gives.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I have to work in the morning. It is 12:30 here and it's 2:30 for where you're at.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think I'm going to the
I
zoo
took today
tomorrow.
off.
Oh, nice.
I'm
That's what my job feels like most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine. All right,
It's
guys.
okay.
Stream, you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for putting up with us. And
it's the
as
next morning.
always, goodbye.
Yep.
See you later.